I was on mute. Was I on mute? Okay. Let me do that spiel once again. So, hi. Happy Thursday. Sorry, you guys. I think I accidentally hit the mute button. If you're coming in here, hit that like button, tag anybody on this discussion, share it with someone that you think may find it interesting. I'm excited about today's conversation. I think it should be interesting, and I should be joined by my special guest. I think they'll be in the building hopefully soon. So more to come on that. But in the meantime, guys, you can find on Cash App or Venmo Shay Sade. He said, checking my audio. No, it was my bad, y'all. Struggle streaming already, right? Yeah, so show support to the show. I mentioned I think it's really important to support independent content creators. If you do not like the media representation, if you do not like the messaging that is going on out there, one of the best ways that you can ensure that your message is being heard is by supporting those who are also supporting your message. So like I said, if what I do resonates with you, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the Cash App, Venmo. As always, I will be sure to acknowledge those super chats. Yes, I heard no sound, but we should be good now. Sorry, I'm getting all these notifications. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about classism, and more importantly, conservatism. Whether or not this is the way forward, or this is the way to save the Black community. Y'all know, I mean, just with everything going on in politics, in all these different conversations, I think there's a lot that we need to unpack. And it's interesting because at least from what I've noticed, growing up, I feel like people who identified a certain way or openly identified as Republican were almost painted as like coons. Now, some of this could be just because of where I live in California, where it's very liberal, and depending upon where you go, it's like you just have to say that you vote a certain way or else you are kind of outcasted. But more and more, especially I think in the Black manosphere, you have men who are openly saying like, we don't rock with the Democrats and we don't rock with this liberalism. We believe in being more conservative. So today I really wanted to have more of a conversation. This is not about trying to alienate anybody, whether they lean left or right or independent, in anywhere in between. I'm simply here to have a conversation. So let me just set the record straight there. And then if time permits and all is well, then hopefully we can open up the call lines. Like I said, if time permits and I get enough support. So so I see conservatism isn't a cure-all magic bullet. I agree, I hear you. So we're here to have the conversation. I am waiting for my guest to come on. I know one of them, I think, recently said that they were a bit behind. I think there was some car trouble, but hopefully they'll be joining me soon. And I don't know about the other one, but as soon as I get here, we can start this conversation. But for those of you guys who are here, I think this is a good topic for me to kind of ask you guys. I don't know if any of you guys saw the interview with Kanye West and Tucker Carlson. I don't know how many of you guys in the chat had a chance to listen into that, to hear that, to watch it. But I'd be curious your guys' thoughts, whether or not you guys thought it was good, it was bad. Kanye hit it out of the park. The dude's nuts. I'm curious. Let me guys know in the comment section if you had a chance to watch the interview between Kanye West, Tucker Carlson, and whether or not you agree with it. Or you hated it, or anything in between. So I will say this. I didn't listen to the whole thing. I only saw bits and pieces because it looks like I think when Fox News released it, they released it in different bits and pieces. But honestly, some of the different points. What's going on? Okay, for Free Black Media. Shout out to Afrikanism Strikes Back. They'll be joining us a bit for Free Black Media. Thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, y'all support your favorite content creators. But just really quick, as I wait for some of the special guests to join, I will say that again, I didn't hear everything I didn't hear the whole interview, just saw bits and pieces. But some of the points that Kanye West raised, I thought were pretty valid. Okay, if you think about, I think what started this whole conversation, right, was him wearing that shirt, White Lives Matter, which we know obviously has been associated with neo-Nazi white supremacist groups that are very much don't believe in like Black lives, right? So it's kind of been branded that way, and so he wears a shirt, and as he is explaining why he decided to wear it, his statement was like, basically, I'm just stating the obvious. Like, I am literally just stating the obvious. Of course, in freaking America, white lives matter. Like, this is not surprising. So I thought his response was, it was interesting, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, obviously in America, America is a Western nation. It has Western ideals, Western values. It was set up and established by Western or European people. So yeah, obviously in America, those of European descent matter. So I thought that was really interesting the way he spinned it. I was not really I wasn't really sure about what to expect. But to me, what it sounded like is he kind of was looking for something to maybe shock the masses or get people to get eyeballs on him. And then he was able to start to share some of the bigger issues that, was bothering him. He mentioned abortion, how there is such a high rate of abortion within the Black community. He mentioned New York. I didn't know that the percentage was that high, but I'm like, that's something that I don't think is really, really talked about enough. There is, all this propaganda going out there about every 4 or 5 or 6 hours a Black woman is being deleted by a Black man. And that's propaganda that's being used as a way to try to really drive a divide between Black men and Black women, and really to try to inspire fear, I think, in the overall Black population. But it's not really being talked about, okay, the percentage of babies that are being, deleted even before they have a chance to live. Like, that's not a popular talking point. So we can go here and talk about how much we care about life and complain and cry that Black women are supposedly being deleted all the time by Black men, but then we don't want to talk about how also kids are being deleted also but like early on. So I thought that was a really good point that he made. A few of the points that he raised. Yeah, so I see what Kanye did was political disobedience. I say, yeah, he is off the market. Yeah, so like I said, I honestly, I know over the last few years he's made quite a name for himself, not in a good way. I mean, he's been branded as crazy, all kind of different stuff. I mean, to me personally, the very fact that he got together with Kim Kardashian had me scratch my head, but to each their own. What's going on? Sorry, guys. Can you hear me? Guys, let me know if you hear me. I'm so sorry about that. My computer just literally just died. That was my fault for not having it plugged in. I didn't notice that the battery was low until it was too late. So my apologies. It looks like we have our special guest in the building. So let me see. Okay, you can hear me, you can see me. Okay, y'all. Sorry about that. Anyways, let's see. Things are freezing on me, guys. Bear with me. This struggle streaming already, right? Okay, so yeah. So anyways, I was letting you guys know. I'll be curious. That can be a whole different conversation. Maybe I'll do like a poll or something on it. But I'd be curious your guys' overall thoughts on the Kanye West and Tucker Carlson interview. I thought, whether or not you agree or disagree, think he's crazy or not, what he did do is get, attention on him, and he got a point or chance to share his views. So that would be interesting. But anyways, looks like we have Mr. Obsidian in the background. So I'm going to bring him up and we're going to start this conversation. Also, guys, be sure to hit that like button. Show support the show. Again, support your favorite content creators. You can find me on Cash App, Venmo, Share. Also, super chats. Show some love on super chats. I will be sure to acknowledge all super chats. Okay, and without further ado, we will bring him on and we will get started. Hey, what's going on?
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good. So this mic. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know, my all my computer stuff's wanted to act weird as soon as I decided to go live. But anyways, so thank you for joining me today. This should be an interesting conversation. I know back in the email you kind of mentioned how this is probably a conversation that we need to have more of. I don't really hear class being talked about a ton in the Black community, but it's certainly something that impacts us all, whether or not we are aware of it. And when you being an open Black Republican, I thought it would be interesting to get your perspective on this whole matter, especially as elections are nearing, all that different stuff.
I don't know if political affiliation has a whole lot to do with with the question of class. I mean, I could be wrong about it, but I'm not sure I see the connection between the two.
Well, and and I think that makes a good point because when you look at class and granted, I don't pretend to be an expert on this, but when you look at class, there are some, you're hard pressed to find, any and everybody that believes on what that definition is, right? Like there's some who very much see class as a racial thing. There are some people who see class very much as something connected to politics. So and just in some of my research, I've seen that there's not necessarily a clear definition on class. And that actually is one of the things I wanted to ask you. Like, how would you define class or based upon your understanding of it? How would you define it?
Well, social class has always been around. And you always will have people that differ on class, education, occupation, or profession, and money. So all of that impacts social standing, and it's a very touchy subject in Black America due to our collective history. Of being excluded.
Mm-hmm.
So all Black people at one time in this country were excluded, regardless of talent or station, so on and so forth. But in the years since the 1960s and 70s, that started to lessen, and now we're starting to see a situation where there's going to be class distinctions among Black Americans more and more. There was a really good book called Disintegration, The Splintering of Black America by Eugene Robinson. He's a writer at the Washington Post, and as it turns out, an avowed liberal. And but he did a really good job with the book, because what he outlines in the book is that as a result of the successes of the civil rights era, the dismantling of state-sponsored racism, Black America has started to kind of drift apart, and you know, the natural order of things, so to speak, starts to take over. It's natural for people to kind of cleave to their own kind, and in America traditionally that's been along racial lines, but as race becomes less important, we're going to start to see other things start to become more important. So things like shared values, educational levels is one marker of that, and so on. And that's going to create some tensions within Black America itself. That's the argument that Robinson makes, is that a lot of the parting of the water, so to speak, in Black America is along class lines, you know. So okay, I cannot hear you. You're speaking and I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I have no idea what's going on. I have
Yeah.
no my can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I have no idea why everything is wanting to act up. So yeah, I wanted to ask the name of the book that you mentioned. I wanted to write that down.
Yeah, Disintegration. It's by Eugene Robinson. It's a good book.
Sure.
Really good book. Good read.
Yeah, actually, I was listening. I haven't finished it, but it was an excerpt from W.E.B. Du Bois earlier, and he was kind of making his predictions about the state of Black America and what would happen. And I didn't finish it. I think it's like maybe a 45 minute lecture, but it was interesting because he kind of was predicting essentially some of what you just mentioned about, as things change and as Black folks in America have access to maybe more things that they didn't previously, how this kind of creates some other unforeseen problems, or will create some other problems that haven't necessarily figured out how to deal with yet. So I haven't finished it yet, but I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your opinion, how does class, do you think, impact the Black community? I know you mentioned it's not necessarily something that we like to talk about a ton, but it is a real thing. So
yeah.
How do you think it impacts the Black community? Just whether it's relationships, I think there's certainly something to say about, how class can impact relationships. Like, look, I know I've heard plenty of guys or men who've come from, lower socioeconomic backgrounds, come from the hood, be like, they don't want hood chicks. Like, literally say this out their mouth. Like, and they grew up around some of these women and they want nothing to do with them. So I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Well, the real issue over the past, like, say 3 decades has been the idea of middle class Black women, higher educated, having to face the prospect of quote unquote dating down to blue collar Black men. And
right.
Yeah. And that has gotten a lot of currency in Black American life. A lot of media attention has been put on it and stuff like that, because of the idea of this notion that there are so few Black men who can measure up to the expectations of Black women who are, advancing and achieving and stuff and so forth. And of course, that's not quite the case. This was right before the social media era that we have today. This was still in the era of big network TV, and so on. But well, within the last decade or so, black men like myself, a self-admitted blue-collar brother, or Blue Henry, as Kevin would have put it, were able to get access to information at my fingertips via just my smartphone alone, and could, kind of, fact check and work back on all the claims that were made over the years. And what I found was actually there's the number of black men in or graduating from college now is at an all-time high. And that the idea that there are so few brothers in college and all that's just not true. What is true is that black Americans, both male and female, marry later than anyone else. We marry at a later age. So we marry for the first time in our 30s, both black men and black women. And that's significantly later than when we graduate from school, which is, you're looking at somewhere in your 20s. Generally, by the time you're 25, you're out of college, generally. And black women don't make finding a husband while they're at college a priority. They make getting an education a priority, which is fine, but it does come at the cost of finding a husband. So by the time they get out and then they want to live their best life, so by the time that they're ready to have children, sit down and often, sometimes they do have kids already. That tends to be the case. Black women have their children between 20 and 24 and want to marry between 30 and 32. So by the time they're ready to do all that, they're significantly older, and highly desirable men are not on the market very long.
Right.
So that's the real issue insofar as that's concerned. I've always felt, and I don't make any bones about this, I've always had a personal view on this. I've always felt that black women of that stripe were scapegoating brothers like me.
You're talking about the educated black woman, which to be clear, black women who actually not start and finish their education, isn't that like 10%? Like it's a rather small percentage. Now they have
well, here again we have, resources like blackdemographics.com. So Black Demographics tells us that 59% of black women attend college, only about 24% of them wind up getting a degree. And that's starting with an associate degree and more. As far as black women with grad degrees, that's about 10%.
Yeah. Okay, like higher education.
Graduate or professional degrees.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but those are the black women that have had the dais for so long. I mean, you mentioned Sisters in the Hood. I want to get to them in a minute. But the sisters that are the professionals, the white collar professionals, the college educated, they have had the microphone, they have had the megaphone for decades. And if they haven't had it directly themselves, people on their behalf have had it. So your Oprah Winfrey's, your Ralph Richard Bankses, and so on. And what I am saying is, I've always been of the view that they were scapegoating guys like me, because it's easier to say that than to say I squandered the best years of my life at a time where I had access to the best of black men.
Right.
And I blew it. That just doesn't make as good exciting copy.
Yeah.
As it does the idea that we have this great shortage of eligible black men, that the prison industrial complex is the reason why I'm single, that the down low, essentially gay bashing is the reason why I'm single, instead of just looking at the fact that I wasn't focused on getting married at that time. I was focused on getting an education, and then I wanted to live my life after I got out. And by the time I was ready to settle down, I was too old. Because guys who go to Princeton, let's do this again, brothers, black men who make it up the traditional American status hierarchy as men, the white patriarchy, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, University of Chicago, University of Michigan, or University of Pennsylvania, I should say, Columbia, Northwestern, UCLA, Berkeley. Those brothers aren't interested in women that are old as a first marriage. Now we're talking about second marriage, or we're talking about, life after your marriage and your divorce. That's different. I'm talking about as a first marriage. Those brothers aren't interested in women over 35. Those brothers aren't interested in women that have a double dress size. Their dress size is expressed in double numbers. They're not interested in marrying women first time who bring children in tow. It's just not. They don't go to the best schools. Morehouse men ain't doing that. They're not. And a lot of sisters will try to spin it and say these guys are arrogant. Okay. They're arrogant. And these are the best of men. See, a lot of sisters trying to have it both ways. You can't want the guys who are at the top of the status heap and they act like Clark Kent at the same time. It doesn't work that way. These guys have a reason. These guys have a reason to be a little arrogant. They do. And they want what they want, and they're in the position to get it. A lot of the ladies have crafted a narrative that makes it out that they're complete victims, and then want to scapegoat brothers like myself, blue collar brothers who nobody was speaking for. Let's be clear about something. The black manosphere, if there was no black manosphere, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Well,
because Ralph Richard Banks ain't interested in what I have to say. Oprah ain't interested in what I have to say, etc. at all. I had to go get it out the mud and create what is today known as the black manosphere, me and some other brothers, to make our own voice, and our own voice is heard on this. And I'm very proud of the fact that we're having this conversation right now, because it proves that I was able to force this onto the table. Ladies, for whom it applies, why didn't you make getting a husband a priority? You're not going to sit there and tell me brothers in the 21st century don't go to college. It's not true. You just weren't interested then. And for some of you, you didn't qualify. Those guys don't want women with double dress sizes. I'm sorry. And the brothers who will be willing to work with you, Blue Henrys like me, we're a lot more forgiving than those guys. We're willing to take you on. And this is not my personal opinion. You look up, stepdaddy rates, for example, stepfather rates. That's a hotly contentious issue in Black American life, particularly in the Black manosphere. If you look at, I'm talking about Pew Research Center now, not Black demographics, just Pew. You look up Pew, the men with less education are the men that are most likely to be stepdads. The men with the most education are the least likely to be stepdads. So blue collar brothers are, if you're an older Black woman, if you're a bigger Black woman, if you're a Black woman that's already got kids, actually the Blue Henry guy is the guy you want to be checking for. But see, what happens is they have a level of contempt toward those brothers because hypergamy. It's natural for a woman to want man of a higher status. I get that. So these sisters put themselves in a bad situation. It ain't got nothing to do with me as a blue collar brother or racism or the patriarch. No, it's because you put yourself in a bad spot. And just own it. Just say, look, I didn't make that a priority in my life. And by the time I was ready to make it a priority, the men I wanted didn't want me. It's that simple. And the men that wanted me, I didn't want. But see, you can't get any sympathy that way.
Okay, so then you would say, and what's going on, Brandon? I'll segue to you in a second, but thanks for joining. So then you would say that, going back to the original question, how class impacts the Black community. You're saying, well, one of the primary way it impacts the Black community is in relationships. And then if you, again, just look at the narrative over the last, decades, honestly, you're having issues that really only a minority of Black women have being spoken for everybody. So again, going back to the Black woman who goes and gets a higher education and pushes off marriage and doesn't decide she wants to settle down until she's like, 40. She's complaining and saying there's no good Black men. But then now that becomes a narrative for Black women of all social classes, and it impacts the way that they move. And this is somewhat of the contention you're having today, because you have all these women, whether they got a degree or not, women who are working at Walmart talking about, I can't find men at my level, having the same complaints that women with PhDs have. And it's created this contention, this imbalance. It's created all these unrealistic expectations. And this is impacting the way men and women are actually, are getting along. I want to make sure I kind of was able to.
Yeah. So now we can bring in the sisters and this is a recent phenomenon. What I was talking about is dating back to like the 90s.
Yeah. Okay.
What you just mentioned is more in recent years, within the last decade or less.
Okay.
So because of the internet, sisters who are not white collar professional or highly educated can now have a voice too directly. Fair. And they've kind of picked up and glommed on to many of the talking points of the Oprah crowd.
Okay.
And women are kind of inherently, herd creatures. It's hard for a woman to stand out by herself. That's a hard thing for most women to do. So they kind of, go along with the herd. I don't really consider that all that important, to tell you the truth. And in a sense, women like that have never really had a voice, to tell you the truth. I know this is going to kind of sound as a bit of a shock to a lot of the brothers, but those sisters, I'm talking the proverbial, big booty Brenda in the PJs. I mean, she never
like the hood chick, the one that
never really had a voice. Yeah.
Okay.
So what has happened over the past 10 years thereabout is you had a situation where Black women like them could get more of a voice.
Okay.
The more of the Cardi B crowd. I personally, I don't see it as a big deal, but I can understand how many brothers do. And I think that owes to, and this goes back to the class piece. See, even though I was blue collar in occupation, I was middle to upper middle class in mind. I shared many of the same values, and I was very aspirational and very ambitious. So there are a lot of brothers like me insofar as being on the blue collar side, but are not as ambitious. For them, they want a good blue collar life and what that entails, and they should be entitled to that.
Yeah.
But what has happened is that these things that we're talking about, due to the ubiquity of technology like smartphones and social media, of which Black women use heavily, this is what we see. So
yeah, absolutely. So Brandon, again, thank you for joining. I started off by asking him how he defined class, and then how class, impacts the Black community. So I don't know if you have anything that you want to respond to just some of his comments he just made, or if you kind of want to touch on the different ways you see class impacts the Black community today. Okay, I can't hear you. Is that just me?
No, that's me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I can hear you now.
Class is just the difference in economic levels between different people. You have people who make, based on the way we look at it in American society, right? Like if you have money, they've actually put like dollar amounts to this. If you're making over $100,000 a year, or in America, $50,000 a year, you're middle class. If you're making under $50,000 a year, you're lower middle class. And if you're making under 20, you are in poverty, right? So we've given definitions to these words. Ultimately, the only dynamic between how this affects Black people is kind of highlighted by what Obsidian said. Black people have zero situational awareness, Black men or women. So Black people, period, have zero situational awareness. And I'll prove it to you. Let me ask you this. Shay, What is the fastest vehicle to take a person out of poverty in America?
You said the fastest vehicle?
Yes.
To take a person out of poverty in marriage?
In America.
Oh, in America.
What is the fastest way to get out of poverty in America?
Oh, that's a good question. Because I would think for women, it would be marriage, not having kids out of wedlock. I don't think
Oh no, you just said it. You just said it perfectly. Marriage. Marriage is the fastest way for anyone to get out of poverty. We've put all these terms, hypergamy, and all this stuff that basically amounts to men blaming women because we're not able, because they didn't do this, they didn't do that, and we've been doing. Listen, man, when I was young, men were the same. We weren't talking about marriage at 20, 19, 18, 21, 22, 23. We were talking about how many women can I sleep with? How many women can I meet at this party? So I can have my choice of which women I want. If you can go to a party and get 5 phone numbers, that's 5 potential wives. So if I get 5 phone numbers, because I know I look good, and I know if I ask a woman for something 9 times out of 10, she's going to give it to me. I ain't never not got what I wanted, right? So if you go to a party and you can get 5 phone numbers, 10 phone numbers, that is 10 potential wives, right? The reality is it wasn't all those 10 women who were just not good enough. You at that point wanted to play the field as opposed to settle down and get yourself out of poverty. You preferred to stay broke, stay live on your mom's couch, stay living in your room at your mom's house so that you can go have quote unquote fun by playing the field. Boomerang. We all remember that movie. Booty Call. How to Be a Player. All these movies. Who was watching these movies? Black men and black women. Why did these movies appeal to us? Because these movies represented our reality, the things that we looked up to and aspired to be. Guess what? If somebody don't like violence, they're not going to go watch Stallone. They're not going to go watch Schwarzenegger. They're not going to go watch Van Damme. So when you go watch this type of stuff, absorb this, let this go out into society as the representation of you, that means you are co-signing that view of you because you see in that some characteristic about yourself, right? So where we're at has nothing to do with women, has nothing to do with white people. It just has to do with a lack of situational awareness. I was young. I met my wife. We got married. We've been married for 15 years. Guess what? I had to break up with a woman just to get with my wife because I had a girlfriend at the time. She had to break up with her boyfriend to get with me because she had a boyfriend at the time. But guess what? Those people to this day are still unmarried. And we both realize, look, these people are not looking at things the way we're trying to look at things. As soon as we got married, I think she was making about $35,000 a year. I was making about $25,000 a year. As soon as we became a bonded couple, we were instantly out of poverty, right? She was out of poverty before me because when you take out of taxes, it'll be like less than 20,000. But we were out of poverty instantly. So when we talk about, oh, it's the women and da-da-da-da-da, nothing stopped us from going overseas and get a woman. Nothing stopped us from getting a woman who is an immigrant to America who still displays those traditional values in women. It's all scapegoating because if you were so great, guess what? The white women were still here. My girlfriend in high school was white. They were still checking for brothers. And if it's the black women, why didn't we all just move to the left, get a white woman, and become millionaires? See, the science for me just does not add up. So when we talk, so what we're doing here is, and we're still doing it. We're still doing it. Any man who really wants to be rich or woman who wants to be rich, they're not wasting 5 minutes focused on anybody else. They're like, what am I doing? And let me tell you something. As soon as you start making some money, you don't even got to barely talk to them. They'll come talk to you. That's what I learned in my lifetime. And guess what? It's just like Kevin Samuel said. Once you become a high income earner, listen, you're going to have your choice. Now it's on you to make the best choice. And all this stuff, our lack of like being higher or making progress, this is what it is. We have the choice. We continually make bad choices. No matter how rich we are, we want big booty Judy. We want the chick that look like a stripper. We want the chick who is our fantasy of what a woman's supposed to be versus a woman who may not be the physical representation, but when it comes to the nurturing and all of that, she is the She is the logical representation or the real representation of what we will need to basically raise our children, nurture them so that they come out being healthy individuals within society. And that more than anything is affecting the trajectory of our people. That's just the reality. Because these brothers be like, no, it was the black woman. It was the black woman. Bro, you say, this chick is ugly. This chick ain't my type. Let me tell you something. I breed dogs. Dogs don't go off looks. They go off the strongest candidate to ensure the survival of their species. But what's happened is black men were programmed, and I'll say this, and I don't say this a lot, black men have always desired everything the white man has. That's the way we came up on the plantation. Martin Luther King programmed that into you. The key to your happiness, black man and woman, is to have access to white spaces. There is no greater access to the spaces of white supremacy for a black man than to have a white woman. That's the reality. And so black men said, look, for me to feel like I'm equal to the white man, I can't just wake up knowing I'm equal to him. I need a physical representation of that. One way is money. I got to show him I could go in here and buy the most expensive car on the lot. We still do that. Next thing is, if I got a white woman on my arm, he gonna see that I could get what he got, what I can gain or acquire his prized possession. And so our whole modus operandi from a certain point, I highlight the 60s as that has been, let's go acquire white women. Let's go acquire wealth so we can go spend it with whites to prove to them that we have the ability to do that. Even Martin Luther King did that. He was guilty of that, right? And when we bought into this idea, not only the single mother and all this stuff, that was the largest contributor to the position we find ourselves in today. And a lot of black men won't be honest about that because the reality is this: if it was all about the women and we can't find good women, when we start going to get these white women, how come the black man who marries the white woman doesn't automatically become wealthy? How come he doesn't automatically become this healthy, shining example of what it could have been like if black women would have just submitted to him? Or the black man who marries the Asian or the Mexican. It ain't the woman. It's you. That's all it is. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're a man and you've experienced with women gonna do whatever you tell them to do, pretty much. That's kind of in their nature, right? If you're treating them decent and like, look, man, we about to go climb Mount Everest, you're like, all right, man, like, you want me to pack some sandwiches? Like, this is my experience with women. And we all, as black men, have seen time and time again, there's this dynamic that exists. I remember my mom when I was young. She was a single mother. She was dating. I low-key used to be mad at my mom being submissive to whatever guy she was dating at the time. I literally felt like that guy was coming in, trying to set rules and basically taking my mom away from, you know, what I wanted her to do what he wanted her to do. This is like the movie Baby Boy, right? So if the dynamic was just that, oh my God, black women don't want to submit, why do we go watch Baby Boy and cheer on that movie? And when we saw Melvin step up to be a man and Jody was hostile to that and the mom chose Melvin over Jody, why did we subconsciously say, you know what? That's the way it should be? Why do we say, damn, she did right? There were a few degenerates who were like, no, she should never put a man over her grown-ass kid. But in reality, the movies, the films, that's a reflection of who we really are, right? And that's why that movie is a cult classic. It's popular. What we now have is people saying, none of that's true. It wasn't us. In reality, there were no black women. There was nobody who was willing to submit. Everything you say is a lie if I went and found exactly what I was looking for in our community. That tells me it wasn't a lack of those women who want to do it. It's maybe the way you chose to approach the situation that impacted your inability to do so. If you want to be married, you're going to be married. If you want to be a player, you're going to be a player. But don't be a player and look for this shining example of like white approval. You know, oh, I like light-skinned girls. I want the one with the curly hair. If you just said, look, I just want the woman that's best for me, guess what? You would be married a lot sooner as opposed to later, and you will probably not be in poverty, and you probably wouldn't be so angry. That's all, you know.
So, okay.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
I'm just saying in general. I'm not directing this at you.
But no, but I have no idea who you're talking about.
I'm talking about men. Like we listen. This is the thing.
What? Hang on.
Okay.
What men?
Well, okay, Mr. Obsidian, I want to read the super chats real quick, and then you can rebuttal, if you don't mind. So shout out to Freeman Journal. I said thanks for having the conversation. Thank you for the 5 on the super chat. And then I did see 2 more come through that I wanted to acknowledge. Shout out to you, Oral Strider, with the 5 on the super chat. It says Obsidian telling 0 lies. That was to Obsidian's his earlier points. Thank you for the support. Also, shout out to you, Pan-Afrikanism, for the 10. I appreciate you for showing support, for being here. And then there was one more. Shout out to Christian. It says, Black men who graduate from college understand that conforming to society norms maximizes outcomes. Black men leaving college are checking off boxes to progress. Thank you guys for showing support. Again, if you would like your comment to be read and highlighted, be sure to send in a super chat or Venmo Cash Apps. I'll be sure to acknowledge all super chats. So, Obsidian, you had any response to anything that he said?
I was like, who was he talking about? Because that the Black men that I personally know, the Black men in my life, myself, Black men that I've studied, doesn't comport with what he's talking about. For example, the whole notion of colorism. So we're back to that. No. The vast majority of Black men, by definition, aren't, fiending for white women. Only 15% of Black men have a non-Black spouse today. The idea that Black men are kind of pining away for red bones or whatever. No. So I'm like, where's this coming from?
It comes from this. Every time people who say there's like the Kevin Samuels version where it's like women this, women that, women this. Then there's like the low budget Kevin Samuel. Black women, Black women, Black women. Then when I say,
you're talking about low class Black men.
Wait a minute.
Hang on. You're talking about lower class, less educated hood brothers.
Okay, so
is that who you're talking about?
This is what I'm saying. I'm not saying lower class or anything because this victimhood
you're not talking about college educated brothers.
This victimhood stuff transcends class, man. You got rich dudes. You got the dude giving a $500 super chat in the space, and the dude giving a $200. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. You sound like you're talking about brothers in the hood. That could be true. And here's my thing with that. Because the brothers that are successful, I'm sorry, they just don't sound like that. I'm sorry. They don't. These are, as a matter of fact, these are the brothers that are most likely to marry, dark-skinned chicks, if anything.
The problem is this is what I'm telling you. The marriage rate is dropping. So when you talk about low class, you just said 5 minutes ago, you didn't even purport things to class. But what I'm saying is low class, no class, whatever. We always can do that. That is the most clear characteristic of a weak-minded man. To retreat into rugged individualism. You're not talking about me. You must be talking about these other. No, I'm talking about you and every other Black man like you.
You can't be talking about me.
I'm talking about you and every other Black man like you.
You cannot be talking about me because everything you said does not apply to me.
Oh man, you know what you say right now? Man, you acting like a female because you interrupted me. I didn't interrupt you. I didn't say nothing.
Being interrupting has nothing to do with gender.
Take your time. Go ahead. I'll just sit right here and relax.
I'm just saying that I have no idea who you're talking about. The
Black you feel offended.
The Black men who are the most successful also are the most married to Black women.
Okay.
That's a fact.
I never said
Black men making over 150 grand a year marry Black women at a rate of 83%.
But you're not married to a Black woman, so you don't fit into that category. So that's not you. That's me. So if that's the bar, shut your mouth and let the man who fits that bar tell you something. That's all I'm saying. So what
you're going to say here then is you're going to speak to what all the other brothers out there who you don't know, because we never met each other. So you have no idea what I'm like.
Everybody married to a Black woman, raise your hand.
And chances are very high. I've been with my lady longer than you've been with yours.
Well, 15 years. I don't think so. But here's the thing.
12 years, I'm right behind
everybody, but you haven't been married. So I'm going to raise my hand like this. This is what I'm trying to tell you, brother. I'm not attacking you. What I'm saying is you guys
are attacking and you
I'm not.
Aspersions on Black men unfounded. You haven't cited one study, not one source, nothing. You're getting your opinion.
Let me say
pass it off as fact.
Okay, guys. If you don't mind, finish the point.
Let me say this one thing. This is all I'm saying. And I'm telling you, it's like a situational awareness and it's pure hypocrisy. You can't set a bar. This is what I want, right? Then when someone who has reached that bar, right? Like if I say I want a Super Bowl, I want to win the Super Bowl. And then someone who's won a Super Bowl come and say, bro, this is what you got to do to reach a Super Bowl. You don't know what you're talking about. How do you know? And this is not, you can't do that. It doesn't even make sense. It's literally a walking conundrum because here's the bar. I've reached it. All the people who haven't reached the bar are the ones giving advice about how to reach the bar.
Who's
That
giving
is
advice here?
hold on.
So
That is a recipe for failure.
Who's giving advice here? Who is giving advice?
That's why. Let me make this quick. Let me make this quick connection. And this is why you have a bunch of black people in the chat saying Kanye West is crazy. He bipolar. He don't know what he's talking about. What do these people say every day? If we had some money, this would fix our problems. But the person who got some money and don't face none of the problems you face is telling you what you need to do to get to the point where you're where they're at, and you're saying, nope, that person's crazy. Shay, does that make any sense?
Talking about Kanye.
I want to real quick. I want to make sure I understand. I
had nothing to say about Kanye. Nothing to say about it.
So
I'm talking to people in the audience.
I was talking specifically about class.
Okay, now
and giving a historical account of how black women who have dominated the public square for decades have been dumping on blue-collar brothers because they squandered their best years at college and getting access to the best of men and want to blame somebody for it. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So again, I want to make sure I'm clear. So to your point, Mr. Obsidian, again, you're going back to which I can agree that certainly that behavior and mindset is out there where it's like, Black women as a collective, I think early on are not encouraged to get married. I mean, it is well known by I just think Black women all over in America. Like if you've gone to college or if you've talked to any older Black person in a certain class, like they're telling you focus on your career, get your stuff, know how to take care of yourself. Like many of us have had those conversations, or at the very least heard that. So I certainly do know that. It is a thing that I think within Black culture, we're told to focus on our career first and then marriage will happen automatically, but there's not necessarily that you're not necessarily being encouraged to pursue both at the same time. So I certainly agree with that, what you were saying, Mr. Obsidian, how that can lead to women overlooking good men. And then to your point, I want to make sure I understand, Brandon, you're saying that, yes, the very fact that there is this culture that undermines marriage, that is creating a lot of these issues because marriage, if you just look at very least in America, marriage is the fastest way to get out of poverty. I want to make sure I understood both of you guys' points.
I'm saying that failed marriages and all that happen all the time. But back in the day, people have a failed marriage or your wife dies or your husband died. You know what people did? They got married again because they understood something we don't understand. The United States is made for married people. I know people who are married who don't even care about each other, but they got married a long time ago and they were just like, yo, it's just better to be married. Lower taxes. I got somebody to watch these badass kids while I go to work and vice versa. We're not acting. The way we act and behave does not represent the situation we're in. The way we act and behave represents immaturity, right? Hey, you don't love her? So what? Go get married so you could have some liquid assets because you're paying less taxes. The single man is the fool of America. The single woman is the fool of America. We have an unprecedented access to information like no time ever before. The fact that we can't look and get this information, educate ourselves, and then literally model our life and actions after what we've learned, it's very telling about our people. At this point, we should be getting married to people we don't even care about with a prenup, just so we can have a better access to wealth, just so we can get out of poverty. I'm telling you, this is what we've done for thousands of years.
Well, what I would say to that is that number one, affairs of the heart matter. Sexual attraction matters. Whether you leave the toilet seat up or down matters. Those things matter. And we can make all of the fact-based arguments on planet Earth and even be right about it, but those things matter. So that's number one. Number two, most black people today are not in poverty. The majority of black men are single and childless. I think it's like upwards of 60% of them are solidly in the middle class. We got 2.5 million black men in the upper class. So, you know, black women are not in poverty. This is a question of, you know, aligning with someone who, you know, hits all or most of the things that you desire in a mate. It's about desire. It's not about utility. It's about desire. And that, by definition, is going to be very hard to make happen. So that's one reason why so many of us are single, because it's very difficult to find somebody who hits all or most of the things we want. Not need, want. Because we don't need each other anymore. Now the question becomes whether we want each other. I personally think it's a great thing that we have fewer marriages in Black America today than more marriages, because a lot of marriages weren't happy ones. And nobody wants to be miserable. And when you're married, you don't just affect yourself or your spouse. You affect the kids, you affect the in-laws, you affect the neighbors, you affect everybody. So I think it's better to have fewer marriages than more marriages, because those fewer marriages tend to be better marriages.
Okay, so one thing you said that highlighted when you were like, we're about desire, it's about desire, right? Well, let's just sum it up in a sentence that if you said it like I'm going to say it, Black people would swear it was untrue. Black people are ruled by desire. People who are successful, they quell their desires and they do what's in the best interest of them getting some money and moving up the economic chain. So right there alone, you literally admitted that the reason why we don't have success, the reason why we're at the bottom class is because why? We prefer to pander to our desires, placate our desires as opposed to placate our need or our desires in basically these are sexual desires pretty much, and you know, our attractions as opposed to our desire and need for wealth. So what we're saying is the Black man and woman, I'm not going to exclude her, cares more about sexual stimulation than accumulating generational wealth.
Well, you know, it's not an either.
At least we're getting to the honest part.
It's not an either or proposition. It's a both and. You can get with somebody that you want to, you know, bump bellies with and make money with them at the same time. It is possible. Is it harder to pull off? Yes. But anything that's worth the having is going to be harder to pull off. Anything that's worth the having is going to be more difficult to acquire by definition. But it is possible to be with somebody that you actually desire and have a good life too. That is possible.
And what I'm saying is, like me, my wife, I'm very attracted to her and everything like that. But here's the thing. When we talk about desire, my choosing her was not purely based on desire, like sexual desire and all that. When I went and saw my wife, 2-parent home, you know what I'm saying? Dad went to work, mom stayed at home. Like it was like a movie for me, like a perfect image of a family. I married her, and guess what? Maybe unknowingly, I set myself up for success when it came to marriage, right? Because I had a woman who was raised in the situation that I wanted for myself. How many Black men are really doing that? How many?
I thought we was talking about, you know, not individualism. You're talking about yourself. That's an individual.
No, I'm talking. Well, you said the men I know, so you used anecdotal evidence. Can I be anecdotal? It's all. I'm not even gonna say no. It's all hypocrisy. I'm gonna do it, then shame you for doing it. Okay, let's put it in a line.
I mean, I don't know you, so I can't speak to you.
I'm gonna do it, and then I'm gonna shame you for doing it. That's all this.
No, I'm not shaming you at all. I'm just merely pointing out.
Let me ask you a question as a man, man to man. Did you not use anecdotal evidence?
Oh, I absolutely use anecdotal evidence.
Okay, and did you not just try to criticize my argument? And
I didn't criticize it. I just made an observation.
Listen, did you just not try to invalidate my argument?
I didn't invalidate anything. I just made an observation.
No,
I didn't say you were wrong. I didn't say it was bad.
You called me out. You called me out.
I didn't say it was wrong or bad. I just made an observation.
See, this is the difference. I'm honest. I'm gonna say what I did.
And now you're imputing motive to me. Now you're imputing motive.
So can we get back?
Just start chuckling because you know exactly what I'm saying, because it's true.
Okay,
Why do we do this? I'm not a woman. We're both men here. Let's be honest men.
So now you're calling me a female.
Okay, so let's just.
These are all ad hominem attacks because of this.
And when these guys talk to other men, you totally see why they are where they are. It's not a secret.
When the debate is over, slander becomes the tool of the loser.
I'm not even slandering.
Okay, so back to your point. I basically, again, what you're saying is marriage is Brandon. Marriage should be the focus. That is the best way to escape poverty.
I respectfully disagree.
Yeah, and I was going to say, because I know in your book, Mr. Obsidian, you cited multiple times that women past the age of 35, you don't think they should even qualify for marriage.
But it's not even that. We can back off of that.
Okay.
My position is that I do not believe in the idea that George W. Bush, he's still alive, who is a Republican. I don't believe in that line of thinking that everybody need to get married. I don't believe that. I don't believe everybody cut out for it.
Okay.
I don't think everybody's built for it. Black men, and in this case, black people. Black men, I don't think all black men make good husbands. I'll be silly to say something like that. I don't think all black women make good wives. Why would that would be disastrous to just put people together like that? I think what's best is for whatever life path you choose, you make sure you have a solid life plan to the end, whatever that's going to be.
Now, curious, because I know to your point earlier, Brandon, you would mention that people who are single, or at least your argument is economic, right? Brandon, your argument is primarily economic. It's like, yes, of course, you would like to have someone that you desire, someone that works with you, but if you look at taxes alone and the different benefits you get as a married couple versus single, it's like that is the quickest way to build wealth and get out of poverty. And when we're talking about class, we're talking about the different issues that people have struggling with class, like marriage is it. Like statistically, based upon the data and the information, marriage is it. Obsidian, I don't know if you can speak to that, because I know you are deep in the data. But marriage has been shown time and time again to be the best way to build wealth. So
Can I say this real quick? Okay, so we talked about George W. Bush, right? George W. Bush was like, everybody should be married. I don't think that. This white man, who is probably far more educated about the politics of America than the average black person, is literally telling you what America was designed for. Instead of black men saying, look, let me use it. It's like this. I'm going to use a Ferrari to tow a horse trailer. A Ferrari wasn't designed for that. So when you try to do that, you're going to have a lot of issues with that Ferrari trying to tow that horse trailer. The black man is like, I don't care what nobody say. I like the way the Ferrari, the black man is sassy. Okay. You know the term sassy? Sassy when you're defiant despite of facts and evidence right in front of you. We're sassy. We got the neck moving and we snatch air. I don't care what the white man say. I don't need to get married, right? Here's the thing. You don't have to take his advice, but then don't complain when America doesn't work for you the way it's working for him. Because everybody knows America was built for families and entrepreneurs. It's like somebody in America working a job. Don't complain about your job, because America was not built to favor someone working a job. The people who founded this country were married entrepreneurs. So they made the country reflect what the circumstances or the environment that was best for them to gain wealth in. So if you want to gain wealth, the best thing for you to do is emulate what they were doing, right? That means get you a wife, start you a business, start you a couple of business, bust your ass 16 hours a day, so that like them, when they got 50, when the life expectancy was only 60, they were able to relax at 50 and spend the last 10 or 15 years of their life chilling, because they have built all this wealth. Because guess what? Their children, because they're very important, were able to then run the business so dad could chill. Do you realize we retire at 65? We're supposed to retire when our children turn 20. That's when you're supposed to retire. When your children hit 18 or even 16, you're supposed to go sit down and not do nothing, because their entire childhood should be you grooming them to take over the family business. And what the black race in this country has done is we've abandoned the most productive model for gaining wealth. And we are dealing with the repercussions of that. And instead of saying, look, let's go back to the beginning. We trying to make all this new wisdom, all this new pseudo wisdom, all these different explanations for why it is the way it is. There's no need for explanation. We already know our grandparents and stuff was married. They all had houses. They all had a bunch of money. We need a loan. Go ask grandpa. It's no coincidence. It's all the same model that works. We strayed away from that, whether it's due to welfare, drugs, jail, whatever, right? But I know one thing: you probably wouldn't have ended up in jail if you wasn't out doing crime. If you was hanging out with pops and granddad at the car repair shop where they own, you probably wouldn't have got in trouble. So there's all these what ifs and all these reasons we could say, but the ultimate reason is this: you're using a model that is proven to be ineffective, trying to gain wealth in this country. Go back and use the vehicle that is most effective at producing wealth in this country. And guess what? Now your woman gotta want it too, and you gotta want it too. But even that dynamic is something that was basically the creation, right, of the circumstances that we went into versus doing what we wanted to do versus doing what we should have done. And that's all I'm saying.
Well, it needs to be pointed out that at present, right, as we speak, there are more married black men than black women, number one. Number two, when asked how many black men or whether black men or black women wanted to be married or in a relationship, it was actually black men who wanted to be in a relationship or marry more than black women. So if we're going to talk about this, I think that we need to keep that in mind. As I said earlier, 2.5 million black men right now are in the upper middle class. 83% of them are married to black women. So the idea that black men are somehow, gun shy from marriage and all the rest of it is just not the data, the facts, the statistics, the research don't support it.
Okay, all I'm saying is if all that stuff is the telling sign of black men, then why do we have Manosphere? If that is look, black men are marrying black women, then there should be no need for Manosphere. All those dudes should just go talk to those rich black dudes.
Well, you're talking to one of the founding fathers, so I'm gonna tell you the reason why. As a blue collar brother, I got tired of being shitted on by college educated black women scapegoating me for why they're single. I didn't have anybody to speak for me, so I decided to speak for myself. Stop scapegoating brothers like me. Own up to the fact that you didn't make finding a husband like white women, Jewish women, Asian women do. You didn't make it a priority when you were in college and you were surrounded by the best of men. You didn't make it a priority. And by the time you did, you were too old for them. Those guys don't want to marry an old woman. I'm sorry. So those guys don't want to marry a woman with a dress size expressed in double digits. I'm sorry. Those men don't want to marry a woman that's already got kids. I'm sorry. Just accept it. Accept your lot in life. You didn't take advantage of the opportunity that was in front of you. The end.
Okay, I understand that. But if the college educated women don't want you and you're not college educated, or say you are, why don't you just go get the women who are not college educated?
Because I don't want those women. I would rather go it alone, and I have. I mean, I am a very successful. You're asking us never question now. I don't want those women. I am better than that. I will go it alone.
Okay, so what I'm saying is this. This is nature, man. Look, in nature, you don't see no animal like, oh, I don't want that group of females over there.
Bullshit. There's a whole bunch of animals that don't mate.
Listen, you never see in nature a male saying, I don't want this woman over there. I prefer this one. The thing is, reproduction is the key, because children also are a very fast vehicle to wealth too. Ask Asians. That's why their kids work in their shops, because your kid, you really don't even got to pay them. And whatever you give them, you could write them off on your taxes, and you could lie about that amount and get a huge tax deduction. Because
you're asking me a different question.
I'm making a statement.
Why is the Manosphere here? I gave you the reason why I did. I'm one of the founding fathers of the Black Manosphere.
I know.
I'm telling you the reason why I did what I did. I'm telling you why. Then you switched it up to another question. Well, why don't you go and get with the other women? Because I'm better than that.
You answered the question.
I don't share the same values with I don't share the same values with Donna the CNA. I don't.
Listen,
I don't. I'm
listen.
curious.
and that
I'm
goes back
curious.
to my
I like to read. I like to debate. I like to talk. I have upper class tastes. I don't share the same values.
But I asked the question. You answered it. Then I was making a statement. You jumped in the middle of
a question.
I did not ask another question. The question I asked
was, why don't you get with women in your class?
And didn't you?
Telling you why?
Let's stop. Let's go. Let's refer to the moderator. Shay, did he not answer that question? He didn't want to, and blah 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 blah.
Well, and this goes back to my earlier point, because I think this is before you came on, Brandon, where I had mentioned how, I guess you would call it the Blue Henrys. I've heard them time and time again say, and you yourself, Mr. Obsidian, said that, like, you don't want women in your class because they act a certain way. So that was, something I wanted to ask about of that imbalance, of Blue Henry thing. Because would that be considered hypergamy, or would that be considered?
It absolutely is hypergamous. Joe Kennedy married a woman higher than this station. It happens all the time.
Okay.
But
so for me, an optimal woman would be highly educated, stunning, first lady quality, because I'm very ambitious.
Okay, can I say this? If you look at our country, the way it was modeled, most women married men who were above them. That meant men married women who were below them. Like I'm telling you, the black man in America cannot constantly blame what's going on with him on the woman when he's not using the model that has been proven to be the most effective. Let me tell you something about women. Women who are easily impressed are the easiest women. You know why? Because you don't got to do much to make them happy. The chick who only ate at McDonald's all the time, she's going to be very impressed by Sizzler.
So we're back. We're back to this point.
Why do you keep interrupting me? I accepted the first one. I accepted the last one. I accepted the last one. All I'm saying is, we're told that these are feminine traits. We're told that these are feminine traits. The alpha male. The alpha.
Okay, I'm sorry if I may. Can we just be clear to let each other finish speaking, if we can please do that, and try to keep it respectful. Okay, Brandon.
Let it be said that the man who's a beta has not interrupted anybody, but the alpha male has interrupted me every time. Can't stand to hear what I'm saying because I'm not some woman who he could shout over or basically blame everything on. The point I'm making here, hopefully without interruption, is this. When you get a woman, you need a woman who's willing to co-sign to your vision, right? A woman who is a nuclear physicist.
Nobody asked you advice, brother. Why are you giving advice when nobody asked you?
All right.
Nobody, this is not, how Pan-Afrikanism strikes back gives marital advice. Nobody's asking for your advice. The reality is there are more black men that are married than not. You asked why the black manosphere exists. I told you. You then asked, why don't you?
Why are you so emotional?
I told you.
Why are you so emotional?
Now
and
here you are attacking me.
That's exactly
attacking
and that's exactly and that's exactly. And look, we can sum it up just like this, and that's how the white man control you because you know he got you by the emotional
argument. Here we go. Instead of dealing with the argument, instead of dealing with the facts.
Can I just talk without interruption?
Okay, you too. Okay, you too. So let me just circle back a bit because I want to again make sure we understand and then make sure that each person's point is heard without interference or insulting. So going back to Mr. Obsidian's earlier point, and if I am mischaracterizing your guys' points, please let me know. But his earlier point, he started Black Manosphere.
Why do I get interrupted and then it's like going back to his point? Come on, bro, that's not fair. I wouldn't do that to y'all on my channel. Well, that's the problem with our community. We have no concept of fairness. What it is that was funny. Now, fuck you. Let's talk to this guy because he's getting more emotional. Let's keep it real. I was talking. I didn't interrupt him. But guess what? The guy who's the most emotional and loudest wins. That's what it always is. Are we going to change how we operate? Or are we going to keep doing it saying, damn, why is nothing changing for us? Because we let the most ignorant, loudest, emotional, can't marry a woman, male, dictate the conversation. That's the reality. The dude who's over 40 and can't wait his turn. That's what's wrong with the black community. That's why we're getting shit on by every other race, because we have no self-control, and the people who do have self-control sit up and coddle the people with no self-control. That's our problem. We could do, if we stop that, we fix it.
Okay, so again, okay. So my point was I wanted to make sure that I understand both of your position. I understand our emotions are high, and I understand you disagree in certain points, and that is okay. Again, my point is to try to make sure we can have these conversations and still be respectful. So again, going back to the point that he made, I'm going to get to your point, Brandon. I just wanted to go back because you were rebuttaling. Again, he said he started the Black Manosphere because he was sick of people scapegoating his experience, and there are a lot of Black men who had his experience, right? Basically, women saying there are no marriageable men out there, him saying you didn't want to marry us. That's essentially why he started the Black Manosphere. There's a lot of men who have that complaint, and also, there is something to be said about the fact that there's a lot of Black women out there who don't necessarily see value in marriage also. So that's his position. Your position is, look, we can complain all we want. We can say it's Black men's fault or Black women's fault, but at the end of the day, the system is what it is. We have seen time and time again how people can build wealth and what it takes to build wealth. And at the end of the day, we're just not willing to do. We can be emotional about it. We can blame people about it. We can say it's because there's not enough marriageable women. We can do that. But if we are not willing to follow the model, we're going to get the results that we have. I think that is essentially what you guys are both saying. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the problem. Again, this is a cure looking for a disease. Most the majority of black men who are married at a higher rate than Black women. There are more Black men who want to be married than Black women. This brother is barking up the wrong tree. Instead of trying to give the Black Manosphere a workout, he needs to go to the sisters and ask them why they don't want to get married when you got all these brothers out here who do and are eligible. That's who he really needs to be talking to if we're going to have that conversation.
10 minutes ago.
Secondarily, the question here wasn't about marriage. The question is about classism and whether conservatism can save Black America. That was the discussion. I weighed in on the question of class and related to something that has been percolating in Black American circles for decades. That's class-based. And that nobody has a problem with. Nobody has a problem with white-collar professional Black women dumping on blue-collar brothers. Nobody's got a problem with that.
Right. Now, Brandon,
can we let the record show that not even 10 minutes ago this guy said it's not about color? Now he's saying Black women. It's all about color. Like that, these guys don't know they're coming or going. I didn't say that. I'm done talking to Steph.
I didn't say this is not about color.
All right, man. All right. When I said that,
you brought up white women. I ain't saying anything about color like that.
And you said, what does color have to do with it?
I said, well, what do white women have to do with it? You brought up white women. You did.
Okay, so I think this is good. I think we can maybe agree to disagree on some of these points. I know the topic here, to your point, was class and conservatism. I know you guys are both Black Republicans, so there is some agreement there. But I think we did segue into the conversation of relationships because obviously that is very connected with class and is also very much connected to some conservative values. So understand your point about marriage, Brandon. Again, that is something that I've heard, a lot of Republicans talk about the importance of marriage, family values. Again, and Mr. Obsidian, you shared your point about the manosphere, and although you yourself are a moderate Republican, why you don't necessarily see marriage needs to be pushed on men because they shouldn't be forced to have to marry a woman that they don't not
or Black men or Black women. I'm not saying all Black women need to be married. Absolutely not.
Right. And then to Brandon's point, okay, if that's the case, then we can't complain if we actually experience issues economically when the model of success in America is primarily connected to marriage.
Well, you got to find another way to get it done.
Do we understand that conservatism is literally rooted in marriage? That's conservatism, as we understand it today, started in the 60s as a response to FDR's New Deal, and then everything that came out of that, and people felt like the values of America were being lost. Family, marriage, having kids, raising those kids, hard work, all these things. That is literally how the Republican Party became a conservative party. Why do you think it's rooted in the South, the section of the country that identifies the most with those values? So when someone says, I'm a conservative, but I don't believe in getting married, it's kind of like fundamentally divergent from the idea of even being a conservative. So that means that really, are we really what we think we are? You know what I'm saying? Or are we something else? But this fits best with what I want to do. Like conservatism is about family, having kids, all that. And that's why you see most people who are true conservatives, they are married, they usually got some savings, or they flat out rich, and they're mostly talking about ways to improve their situation that they can affect, right? Conservatism is rooted in personal accountability. If a conservative don't look for 1 minute, a true conservative, that's why I don't think all the Republicans are true conservatives, because they still try to blame Democrats and they don't ever come up with any ideas. That's why Democrat ideas dominate everything, the news cycles, because Republicans are like, we're waiting on the Democrats to make a mistake so we can jump on it and try to shame them for it, right? That's what we literally have in our society. Black men and women are not thinking of new ideas to move things forward. What we're doing is waiting for the other side to make a mistake so we could jump on that and say, see, this is exactly why, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. It just doesn't it doesn't progress you anywhere. It keeps you right where you're at. And that's why we've stayed right where we're at. And say someone like Kanye, right? That guy's crazy. The guy's also innovating. Jeff Bezos, he's not married, was married up until a year ago. You know what I'm saying? When he was getting where he went, he was married, because somebody had to watch them badass kids. Somebody had to make them sandwiches. Somebody had to come bring lunch to work when he had to pull an all-nighter. I'm not going to just dismiss women as a part of what we're doing, because everybody who got somewhere, maybe it didn't work out in the end. But the journey, they were definitely there. And that's the same thing with women. All these women, I don't need a man. Guess what? You're probably not going to end up like Jeff Bezos' wife, to where at the end you could be like, give me half your stuff, and now she's still rich based on the investment she made.
The vast majority of Black women are facing evictions at this point. So
yeah, which is interesting, because I know you had mentioned earlier, Mr. Obsidian, and this is all kind of connected, class, because I know you mentioned earlier, I think it's only 30% of Black folks who are in poverty, but there's also a large percentage of Black women who are being evicted. I don't know if you have the numbers behind that precisely.
Well, Black women are disproportionately represented. I can tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I wonder, is it like?
No, he's right about that.
Yeah. No, I saw reports about that, because I know I was under the impression that, well, poverty, from my understanding, impacts women more, and especially single mothers, aka Black women, the most, because again, anytime you're trying to raise a kid outside of the context of a family or a marriage, you're on one income, there's going to be multiple problems associated with that.
I'm reading Black demographics right now, Black women statistics, and it says here, only 26% of Black women made 50 grand or more in the year 2018, and 40 compared to 48% of all women, and 29% of Black women were living below the poverty line, compared to 14% of all women, or in other words, twice
below the poverty line.
So again, we're barking up the wrong tree here. If anybody needs to be browbeat about why they ain't getting married and why they ain't doing what Dolly Madison and John Adams' wife did and all that, it's Black women. Not Black women.
But we have an entire planet full of Black women. All I'm saying is, why waste 2 seconds addressing Black women who don't want to get the program? You can go move to Costa Rica. You could go to Costa Rica, impregnate a woman, and be like, look, let me just finish this thing.
It's about telling Black women. It's about telling Black women about
sassy.
Stop.
Okay, so no, you can finish your point, Brandon.
Stop scapegoating.
My wife don't even interrupt me this much.
Okay, if we will.
I already told you why. It's not about getting married. I'm not getting married. I'm not ever getting married.
You're just interrupting me.
It's about telling Black women about themselves. Stop scapegoating brothers like me.
You think they don't know who they are?
Own the fact that you had access to the best of men and you blew it. Just own it. That's all I'm saying. Just own it. When these kind of topics come up for the ladies involved, this is what you say. I will write the script for you. You know what? When I was in college, I just wasn't focused on that. By the time I was ready to settle down, the men that I wanted didn't want men like me. That's all it means. It's nobody's fault. It's not racism's fault. It just didn't work out. That's
okay.
what.
So Obsidian, if for a second, Brandon, finish your point, please, without interruption. Then I'll go into the super chats. Then we'll keep it pushing. What was the point you're making, Brandon?
The whole thing is this. Say, for instance, you're a guy. I'm single. All this stuff. You could literally go into another country, meet a woman, impregnate her, have all the kids you want. Be like, babe, stay right here. I'm gonna go to America, sleep in my car, or rent a single apartment. Save every penny I make, send you pennies on the dollar to survive and live well over there. And by the time and go back and forth to visit, this is what people do. Mexicans, Asians, Africans, they all do the same thing. And you would be able to literally enter into the wealth bracket simply based on reducing your expenses and working hard, right? There are so many different ways to skin this cat now due to technology and the advancement, the technological advancements. At this point, if you don't got the reality you want, that's either based on being stubborn or simply just being not unintelligent, right? So all I'm saying is, one of the things that can help this poverty situation is if we admit there's just a certain segment of us that's just not that smart, and they will weed themselves out. When I see someone talking about, I don't want kids and stuff, I say, that person probably don't need kids, and it's good because then their kid won't be around in 10 years to steal my damn wallet. You know what I'm saying? Let them go their own way. But if we really want to improve, come up in the economic the area of economics, right? As a people globally or whatever, or individually, there's a lot of different options. If you can't find an option for that to fix that, then maybe you're just not maybe it's just never going to happen for you. I don't see all this. Like, I'm a conservative, so I have zero time to blame somebody else. Like, I'm just going to be like, what can I do to fix this situation? Right? And that's why all Black people need to develop a certain level of conservatism, because the blame game ain't worked for us since the plantation, when we was like the white man did, the white man. How did that turn out? Not good. So now it's like the black woman. What is going to be next? The dog did it, and it's because the dog did it. The blame game don't work, and it never has, and it never will. So just do better. You know what I'm saying?
I have no idea who he's talking about.
Damn, why you take everything personal?
Okay, so let me go and real quick. I'm gonna acknowledge you, super chat. Shout out to you, Better You. It says conservatism has several aspects, such as social and fiscal policy. You can be socially moderate or liberal and fiscally conservative, or vice versa. Shout out to you, Better You, with the 5 on the super chat. Yeah, I do know that there's certainly nuance to, and there's levels to EV conservatism. Shout out to Lord Lev Smith with $9.99. It says, if you're not married with wife and kids, you are not a real conservative. I've always side dudes in their 50s, never been married or have kids.
Well, by that notion, you also have a problem with Ann Coulter, because she's never been married with children either. You also can get on Laura Ingraham. She's a single mom. She adopted as a single mom, and she never married. So you really feel some type of way about her.
Okay.
If you're going to be consistent. See, the problem I have is it always side-eye guys who are inconsistent with their application of self-righteousness.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. You should be consistent.
Okay, Shay, wait, Shay. Let me ask you a quick question. Name me one time you've ever heard Laura Ingraham bashing men.
I can't think of anything, but again,
she doesn't do it. I watch Fox News. She doesn't do it. I watch Ingraham Angle every day. She knows what she is. She knows what she is, and she accepts it for what it is.
And your point?
This is my whole point. You guys compare themselves to people who don't display the same behaviors that they do. Like, bro, I'm not talking about people who just do what they do and don't complain. You know how many men are single and just like, I never chose to get married, but they're not saying it's someone else's fault. They're just like, it's me. I chose this.
Who are you talking about?
Damn.
You said you guys.
That means it's more than one. It means it's more than one.
Okay, so at what point did I bash Black women here?
All right.
Where did I say that Black women were horrible people?
I'm going to move on to super chat. I don't know if that was. I think they were just making a general statement. I don't know. Something you're just.
How can that? Well, general statement has no meaning. Anything that explains everything in the end explains nothing. We need precision here. I gave specific names in response to a comment that was directed at me. I responded with 2 specific names. The response to that is to say, you guys. I need specifics. Who are these men that you're talking about, brother? Out with it.
Okay, well, while you're waiting to respond, I'm going to finish these other super chats. Mr. Albert, it says, ask him, does he know the average weight for Black women? I know the average Black woman is overweight, and I think the majority of them are obese, if I'm not mistaken. I can't think of the exact position, but the majority of them are obese. And yeah, that is a problem. That is certainly a problem. Waiter Games with the 20, I appreciate you. It says, don't marry to get out of poverty. You'll be worse off once y'all divorce. Don't participate in child labor. It's illegal. 3 Black men like what they like. It's not based on anything else but that. Stop making happiness racial. Shout out to you with the 20 on the super chat. And then I see Lattimore with the 4.99. It says the Manosphere does give many men a voice on many issues other than marriage. Yeah, that's true. When I started listening to the Manosphere, I heard some other positions that I had just never really heard before. So that's why I made it a point to try to listen. Yeah, then it's ones that more Black women are married than Black women. Yeah, true. And from what I understand, I think Mr. Obsidian, you alluded to this, where there had been a report made not too long ago where it was, I think, asking about marriage, and men overall showed that they desired marriage more.
Yeah, that was NPR.
Yeah, so it's like, if that's not happening, then it's you probably need to look into further investigation as to, okay, Black men have already said, or just men in general have already said that they want more marriage, but it's not happening, and they're the ones that actually control access to marriage. What is causing that issue? Now, we've heard some of the complaints. Obviously.
Well, I think it's because of a lot of Black women have very high mating aspirations. There was a very interesting article. Matter of fact, I'll pull it up and post it in the back chat for you, okay, so for your records. There's Black women have much higher mating aspirations than women of other races, and this is well documented. As a matter of fact, I'm waiting for the article to come up as we speak. But yeah, a Black woman, a Black female scholar, did the research out of Rutgers University. And she made it very, very plain. Black women have very high aspirations. And when you have very high aspirations, there are going to be very few men who, number one, can fulfill it, and number 2, want to fulfill it with you. So that's the reason why a lot of Black women don't want to be married, because they have very high mating aspirations. And that's fine. I'm not saying that they should settle or anything. Do that. Just stop with the scapegoating. Stop talking about Black men on the down low with your homophobic self. Stop talking about Black men being locked up is not true. Stop talking about all these different things. Just say, you know what, man, I have really high standards, and there's a very small group of guys who can fulfill it, and they may not want me. That's the reason why I'm not married. That's it. I mean, it can't get no more conservative than that. I'm asking Black women to take personal responsibility in their life and stop blaming colorism, featureism, body positivity, fat shaming. You can't handle a strong Black woman. Just say, you know what? I just have very particular taste in a man. I know very few men can do it, and maybe those men may not want me. And that's all it is. That's all it is.
If someone says I just got a question, because I'm just a logical guy, right? I'm just a true conservative guy. If someone says I don't want to get married, why is that person complaining about other people not getting married? Like, clearly, even if the woman was perfect, you would not marry them. So it's a moot point. No matter how perfect they are, no matter how fat they are, skinny, like pristine, big booty, nice legs, you don't want to get married. So why complain about women not doing something that even you don't want to do? Sounds like you guys should go down the subway and split a foot long. You know what I'm saying? Because you guys are of the same mind. I don't get how I don't get how I literally agree with a person, share their views about marriage, can't find the right one, not a good enough one for me, and that person is my adversary or my opposite. It sounds like all those people belong together. You know what I'm saying? Because in my experience, people who want to be married hang around with people who are married, like, because that's what they want.
I don't disagree with you. So I'm trying to understand. Are you asking a question? Because you asked, it sounded like a rhetorical question.
I'm asking the question to the universe.
Oh, well, good luck getting the answer.
Well,
let me know when you get one.
Real quick, guys, if you're here, please hit that like button. Also, show support to the show. As always, there's a lot of comments coming through, and I can't get to all of them. So if you'd like to see your comment being read, be sure to send in the super chat. Also, you can show support via Cash App and Venmo. And shout out to you, Jara Clark, with the 10 on the Cash App. I see for much love from Twitter. Good message. Thank you for hanging out. We were talking about conservatism and how it impacts the Black community. I know we have some very interesting positions here about, what's the best way forward for Blacks to get, really escape the cycle of poverty or to just have better results in general. Now, there was another question or two I wanted to pose to you guys. Let me see. So would you, in your opinion, and I'll start with you, Brandon, do you think Black folks should be shamed, or they should be, it's bad for them wanting to abandon the hood or move into safer or all white communities?
No. Why? No. The whole point is, naturally you want to have a safe environment to raise your children, right?
Okay.
So part of this, like, I don't want to have children or I don't want to be married, kind of gives us insight to why our communities got to where they were. An animal that is sick does not want to reproduce, right? Even in nature, if you have a dog that is naturally just is not healthy, usually there will be like a natural abortion, or the puppies will come out dead, or if the puppies come out living, they'll literally just kill their own puppies, eat them, or bite their neck and kill them. So the Black man and Black women have all this unhealthy thinking. So the I don't want to have kids, I don't want to have a family, that is actually natural when you don't have a healthy environment, or maybe personally you don't have a healthy mental state. Nature literally programs you to be like, yo, I shouldn't produce. And usually when you look at most animals that live in close spaces together, that are very social creatures, the weaker of the pack do not mate. In a wolf pack, only the alpha male and the alpha female mate, right? Because they want the offspring to be the product of the strongest individuals, right? So obviously these strong individuals are the ones who are usually going to achieve the level of economic success that affords them the ability to get out of the hood. So the ones who are weak, they want to stay in the hood, and they don't see no reason to ever leave the hood. They also are the ones largely aborting their children, largely saying, I'm never going to get married, largely saying, I don't see the need to have a family. So if we look at this for what it is, it's all really just nature at work. Nature's undefeated. So no, it's nothing abnormal about people who are strong-minded and want to protect their offspring, moving away from the degenerate aspect of our population. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. I would like to speak to this question.
Yeah, sure.
Because the arc of this conversation seems to have kind of gone to the default setting of Black America now, which is the hood. The hood defines Black America. It's the tail that wags the dog. The question was, are Black people who are better off, smarter, more conscientious, more responsible, have a stronger locus of control, more educated, more successful, are they wrong for leaving the hood? I would say in a sense, yeah. But let me explain what I mean.
Okay.
It's not just a physical or geospatial thing. That's part of it. It's also these Black people, since we're having this conversation on social media, the same thing has happened here on social media. You're hard pressed to think of, to use just an example, you're hard pressed to think of a Black analog to Dr. Jordan Peterson. There really is no Black Dr. Jordan Peterson. Let's reverse that. You're hard pressed to think up of a white Derek Jackson. My point is, the Black people who have it together have abandoned the fight. The fight for the narrative, the fight for the image, the fight for the rhetorical argument, they have abandoned it. They've left it to people who, let's be brutally frank, have more fight in them. They have more fight in them than you know, than the people we're talking about here. The people in the hood, you know, they say that you know, when you ain't got nothing else to lose, you go all out. And I think that in a lot of ways we've kind of given up on those folks, and we've left literally, but we've also left rhetorically, we've left ideologically. We just left and disappeared. And then what ends up happening is on the back end, I have conversations with these people who are so perturbed by what they see as borderline minstrelsy. And then when I ask them, well, why don't you get involved? I get a whole bunch of humming. This is a fight. And fights are ugly and brutal by definition. So I think, yeah, black people who are the better off have kind of, you know, abandoned ship. And they do bear some responsibility here. Because being hood, we can't have a conversation about anything in Black America without the hood leading it and the hood defining it. That's where we are in Black America now.
So then you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Obsidian, but I know, you know, you've, at least in the past, you've made it very clear about, like, you know, not wanting to connect with people, right, who don't want to move forward, not feeling the need or wanting to put the pressure on Black men to build the community, right? I know these are different points that you've made. So you're saying now that Black people who leave those environments, those unsafe environments, are essentially, they've given up the fight. What would you say that those Black people need to do? Those who have maybe reached a level of success, do you think they should stay, or do you think they should try to involve themselves in programs? What would you say that they are responsible for doing if they have left the fight?
Well, those Black people have to be willing to go there with their hood brethren. They have to be prepared to go there. They have to be prepared to fight. I mean, it's just, fight literally, fight in other ways. They have to be prepared to fight. And I don't think that a lot of the people that we're talking about here have the fight in them, to tell you the truth.
Okay. And when you say fight, does that mean, like, for example, I know you had that live, I didn't listen to the entirety of it, but where it talked about, for example, you know, young Black boys and struggling to read. And, you know, that may open up another conversation about, you know, single parenting and mothers who raise, who are, you know, left with these kids to raise, and how that can lead to all kind of different issues. So are you saying, you know, Black people who are well off, you know, maybe going back and getting involved in those broken homes? Maybe investing in programs? Okay.
No, they have to be. This is something else that a lot of Black people are going to have. This is going to be very hard for a lot of Black people. Okay. We're going to have to be willing to declare a certain part of us just a lost cause.
Okay.
That's first of all, trying to intervene in a child. Okay, so in the Star Wars universe, I see the brother has a Star Wars mock-up, so he'll know what I'm talking about here. In the Star Wars universe, the Jedi Order doesn't take children past a certain age. They do newborns up to, say, maybe 3, maybe 4 years old. Beyond that, they don't take them. So the idea of trying to mentor, you know, kids, in this case boys, that are 10 years old, 12 years old, they're too old. They're too far gone. You have to do that. You have to foster when they're basically newborns, or maybe a few years old. You know, one of the hidden gems, I guess you could say, or one of the things that's been overlooked with the much maligned or hotly debated, I'll put it that way, hotly debated Russell Wilson Ciara union.
Yeah,
is that while it's true that Russell married her after having a child by Future, it's also true that that child was very young. So he will know nothing but a father experience in Russell. Okay. He will know of his dad, of course, his biological dad, of course, because Future's a very famous person. But in terms of day to day, pretty much all he'll know is Russell. we have an idea in the Black community that you can just blend families kind of willy-nilly. It doesn't work. And the idea that you can mentor boys, and that sort of thing, it just doesn't work. We got to adopt a JEDI mindset here. You know, up to maybe a few years old, okay. But beyond that, it's too old. And we just have to be prepared to write them off.
Okay.
Just kind of to what Obsidian was saying. Well, we have a lot of people, you know, Jordan Peterson and stuff. We actually have people who dwarf Jordan Peterson and people like Derek Jackson and stuff in our community, right? You got people like Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams, people who I think are just very intelligent, Ben Carson, Larry Elder, all these people. The difference is white people are able to separate a person's opinion from the facts, right? So if a person gives a white person facts, they can say, okay, I understand and agree with his facts. They don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. Black people, we do. So if the person is black, but they don't say exactly what we want to hear every time, we say, screw you. That's exactly what we did with Kanye. We got guys like Neil deGrasse Tyson. We literally have intellectual giants. We just won't listen to them. So if you don't listen to your intellectual giants, guess who's going to listen to them? People who are able to differentiate their opinion from what's a fact. That's why white people benefit from listening to black intellectuals more than black people do, right? And we're looking at their people like, we need a Jordan Peterson. We don't love Jordan Peterson because of his intellect. We love him because he says things that we want to hear. Because he's just a more effective marketer. He knows how to say things in a way to where to pull more people in who are emotional, right? Jordan Peterson be wrong about like 90% of everything he say, but because he says it's slow and with a certain cadence. Same thing as Joe Rogan. I've met Joe Rogan a million times because I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Joe Rogan is actually smarter than 90% of the people he interviews. But guess what? He makes it seem like he doesn't know because he knows people they love a guy who's unassuming. They love a guy who has this like childlike sense of curiosity. That makes them feel less threatened by Joe Rogan than, like I say, a person like me who comes off as a know-it-all, right? We have giants. We didn't take what they knew. How many black dudes was like, yo, son, when you grow up, you're going to be a statistician like Thomas Sowell. You're going to be like Walter E. Williams. No, we were like, you're going to be like Jordan. Now, all the years later, we don't got no black intellectuals. Like, yeah, well, we didn't want that. And the ones we got, we don't listen to them. So it's not a lack of it. We just don't give these guys any attention. Also, when you talk about the people who are like making money and stand in the hood and stuff like that, listen, man, if you get some money, get as far away from as you can. Get as far away as you can from the criminal element of black society that dwells in the hood, man. Look at Bruce Wayne's parents, Martha and whatever the daddy's name was. Dead in the alley. Why? Because they kept trying to go back to the hood and make things better for a bunch of people who didn't want it. Look at Nipsey Hussle. Same thing. This story, we already know how this story ends. So the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. 99% of people who are rich, who stay around the hood, stay interacting with the hood, end up two things, either dead or broke. That's just the way it is. You can help your people much better by setting a standard, setting a bar, and challenging them to reach that particular bar. That is how you come out of poverty and you move up on the class scale of America. Like I said, we already have the blueprint. Whether we want to accept it versus make excuses for not implementing the blueprint, everything is black people. We love to exist within the realm of theory, right? That's like the guy who goes to school for engineering or business but can't start no successful business. Well, yeah, he has a theoretical knowledge, but where's the applicable knowledge? The Chinese dude who owns the donut shop has applicable knowledge on running a business. The guy who's the business major, something black people love majoring in, the guy has the theoretical knowledge but does not have the applicable knowledge that only comes with what? Doing something over and over again, trying and failing. we don't like to fail. That's why we don't like to get married. We're scared of you say get married, black people start quoting divorce statistics. Man, that ain't got nothing to do with what you gonna do right here. That's your relationship with this woman, not your relationship with the statisticians of America. You know how many times somebody told me most black marriages end in divorce? Never when I first got married. I didn't even care about that. Now that I've been married for a while, I'm hearing it. But what does that got to do with me and my woman? Nothing. We are too governed, and we care too much about the numbers that white people produce. They could put anything on them stat sheets. Trust me, I've seen people do it. So I would just say, look, if you want to retreat into rugged individualism, do that if you're going to do that in one aspect, do that in all aspects. All those marriages might have failed, but mine not gonna. And then work hard to nurture it, man, because there's two sides to every story. In every divorce, I'm sure there's something that was being done on both sides that contributed to that situation deteriorating, right? And as a man who's married, I'm gonna tell you, I've literally caught myself doing things and entertaining ways of thinking or thoughts that if I wanted to get divorced, I could have justified or rationalized getting divorced. I remember one time when I was like 29, right? My wife was just like, she said something I really didn't like. And I felt like, yo, she's so low-key trying to attack my character. And her mother got together and was talking about something. And I just didn't like what was going down. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm going to divorce her. I'm going to get rid of her. I don't need this. But then I realized, like, bro, you're literally you're purposely trying to magnify the situation and like put yourself in a headspace that will make it easier for you to basically justify divorcing her. It wasn't really anything that she had done. It was more the way I was looking at that. And I'm sure my wife has thought the same thing and then said, you know what, the way I'm looking at this thing might be dictating what I'm thinking about doing more so than what's actually happening, right? That's it. And I'm not a simp. You know, I'm not a guy who's like, oh, women are beyond reproach and can't make a mistake. I'm just a regular, mature male who wants to nurture situations, circumstances, and environments, or create environments that are more conducive to me having success. You know, we are afraid of success. There have been many people who say that. And because of that, we practice something called self-sabotage, where we purposely destroy a situation because maybe we feel inadequate, like we don't deserve to have that thing. And that's something we all deal with in our community.
I think that the question on the floor was whether or not black people who are successful, to just sum it all up, should they feel any guilt for leaving? And my position was, to some extent, yeah, because they've kind of, given up the high ground on what it means to be black. What it means to be black is exemplified by the hood. And since we're going to talk about Thomas Sowell, he talks about this in Black Rednecks, White Liberals. The idea that the ghetto black is the authentic black, and that black folks who, are, middle of the road, solidly middle class and all the rest of it are kind of like traitors to the black race. That's going to continue, and all that entails, so long as the black folks who do have it together continue to leave. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I'm not, so that we're clear, I'm not saying that it's bad or wrong. What I'm saying is that I get these people coming to me on the back end complaining about it. And I'm like, well, if it bothers you that bad, why did you leave? Why didn't you stay and fight? And I'm not just saying stay in the hood physically. I'm talking about that and online. We've given up the fight.
Well, it's interesting because I know, so you would mention earlier, which I think you guys both would agree on, where it's like don't waste your time trying to work with or trying to collaborate with people who don't want to change their situation, like who are asking for a handout. That's a lost cause. Like there's going to be a percentage of people who are just a lost cause. But you had mentioned earlier, Mr. Obsidian, about how really 10 is too old. You have to get them young. You have to start connecting with them young. I guess I'm curious, outside of a family or outside of, a family structure, how is it that you're going to reach, the young 2, 3, 4? How are you going to reach those young kids and kind of give them the different tools that they need to be successful and to change some of the to change the course of things? Like,
I don't think you can. I don't think
you can't do it outside of a family. Okay.
I don't think you can. I think that I think the problem here is something that has the way that we do things. Excuse me, the way that we do things. Here's where I do agree with the brother. The way that we do things here has to be completely reorganized.
Okay.
So stepdaddies in Black America is a very strong tradition. Goes back over a century. But in more recent years, and I date it to somewhere in the 1980s, it started to change. And I think it started to change with the rise of baby mamas. And see, in the past, when a Black man became a stepdad, it was because a Black woman was previously married and either her husband died or in some instances abandoned her and the children, or more rarely got divorced. But in any event, in most cases, most of the time, the mom that was going to be the wife was married. Today, starting in the 1980s, that started to change. So to where now most Black women, 67% of Black women who have kids do so not married with no husband. And I think something about that has changed what it means to be a stepdad. Stepdad and baby daddy are almost like competing categories now. The stepdad no longer has the valorization that it once did, the place of importance in the community that it once did, the praise, the public praise, not just from the community, but from his wife too. It doesn't have the same cachet. It just doesn't. And then there's the fact that, and I pointed this out earlier, Pew points out the fact that that stepdads are more prevalent among the lesser educated of Black men. And I think that an overall loss of prestige has happened to where it's just not worth it anymore to be a stepdad. So I think what I'm getting at is this. In order for this to work, Black women are going to have to bring back a sense of public praise. And I don't think a lot of Black women are willing to praise average everyday guys. I don't think they're willing to do
that. There's a channel that I love watching called Pink Book Lessons. That sister to me has a very balanced view of like Black men and the way things are supposed to be and stuff. I just feel like it goes on both sides. Black women don't praise the good men enough, and Black men don't praise the good Black women enough. And it's like, it's to the point now where we love these echo chambers so much that even if someone steps in and tries to like, say, hey, look, there's some good Black men out here, they're going to shut that down. Someone says there's some good Black women out there, it's going to get shut down. My wife was literally attacked by Cynthia G. Believe it or not, my wife's first time ever getting on the internet on YouTube, Cynthia G was on Dinah Samir's channel. My wife was like, no, women got to be choosing better when they choose men. Like, you mean dudes up in the club screwing them on the first night, you pregnant, he don't want to be a daddy, and you complaining about why he don't want to raise his kid or take his responsibility. Well, he doesn't know you, for one, and you met him in the club and you screwed him the first night and you got pregnant and decided to keep it. Cynthia G made a whole episode about my wife, bashing her, she's a pick-me, she's this and that. But guess what? I was like, see, these Black women are tripping. But guess how many times I've been dashed? You're a beta. Like, nah, bro, like, my experience ain't your experience. Let me tell you what I did that might differ from what you did that helped me get a situation that, lasted and it's going pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Nah, you're a beta male if you don't come from if you don't have the same experience as me. And that's what we do, not just in relationships. We do that in everything. The guy goes to school, to college, gets a good job, working for a Fortune 500 company. Now he got to deal with Black people saying, oh, he think he better than everybody. Oh, that nigga's an Oreo. That nigga. Come on, guys. We've been living in this community how long? We know how we do people who are intelligent. We know how we do people who want to achieve great things. We say, we ain't got enough black doctors. Let a black man say going to medical school. First of all, his mama and daddy going to be like, you going to go get a job, right? Or if he does go to school, he going to be getting clowned and punked and, oh, you ain't going to go out for the football team. Oh, I think you scared you. Come on. We black people get amnesia when it comes to the truth about who we are as a people. So the only thing I think that's going to help all this is there's just going to have to be a separation, right? I have a house, right, that's in the hood. I stayed there for a long time. But I also have a condo that's not in the hood. In the condo that's not in the hood, everybody other than the two people upstairs, up here is 3 brothers, they're white, and there's a lady right here who's white. The whole bottom floor is blacks. There's 4 units at the bottom. Everyone's black. Everyone's married. The guy at the end, he's a postal worker. I don't know what his wife does. The 2 people next door, I think they just retired. You know what I'm saying? They're all black. And then on the other side upstairs, there's 2 more black families, right? In the hood, you're going to have a bunch of single black people who are either I don't want to get married, or they're looking for love, or they're just starting out in life, or they're forever single people. In the places that are not the hood, even when you run into a black person, 9 times out of 10 they're going to be married. And I'm in California, so to find 4 families living in one spot who are all more than that, 6 families who are all black, all married to black people living in one place, that's a rarity. But this stuff exists. So a lot of times when we just speak on our experience and stuff, it's void of a lot of context. You know what I'm saying? And people tell me, oh, well, that's your life. And it's like, yeah, but your life is also just your life. But we all speak in generalities. But then the stats speak to what I'm seeing, which is most black men are married to black women. You know what I'm saying? The stats speak to what my reality. But guess what? I bet you most black men married to black women ain't living up in the hood, aren't living in the most impoverished areas of our society. So there's a certain every like level of our society, even when it comes to neighborhoods, has a certain aspect. Back in the day, black people who were like married, well off and stuff, they usually lived in like the nicer, the more affluent areas. After, Reconstruction, when pretty much married people like my great granddad, he was a sharecropper living in the fields. But when black people moved to the city, got that factory job. I have one friend, her grandfather was working on the railroads, retired with a full pension in 1905. You know what I'm saying? These black people they successfully reached the middle class and stayed there. So I do think classism plays in that and plays a big factor in that. So like when people say like, well, I never experienced that, it probably has a lot to do with what class you're in, more so than.
Yeah. So the question on the floor was whether or not what should be done with regard to black children, black boys in particular. We were picking up on a point that I made using the JEDI analogy. And somehow that point, which was dealing with black men, turned into, well, are we going to praise black women? I don't recall there being a major discussion about whether black women were going to be stepmoms. So I'm not seeing where the connection of trying to do a one-to-one, when I say that if we're going to go the stepdad route, which has a long and venerated history in Black America, if we're going to make stepdads great again, that means that they're going to have to get praised for doing so. I don't see how that translates into, are we going to praise black women? Because we're not asking black women en masse to be stepmoms.
Well, can I just say this? So we're bringing up Star Wars, right? There's like no comparison there, because the Jedi have a standard, they have a code that they all agree on. The black community doesn't have that. So to compare men in the black community to the Jedi Council or the just Jedi's period is a false equivalency. Tell me what's the standard, and then we have a bar to reach when it comes to bringing these young men up.
Sure.
That we might start.
Wait
a minute. Wait 1 second. We might start at different places, but if there's a standard set, we all finish at the same place.
Yeah,
that doesn't exist in our community.
I'll answer it for you. The reason why I brought up the JEDI analogy was because of the idea that we can foster black boys no matter what their age, no matter what their circumstance. That's just not true. The JEDI order, as you rightly pointed out, brother, does indeed have a code. And part of that code is the rules for admittance. Any club that will accept anybody is a club that you shouldn't want to be a part of. The JEDI are very selective about who they allow into the club. We're not going to be able to turn around all black boys. That's just, I'm sorry. I know that's harsh. It is. But I
agree with you.
And we need to start. And the reason why I mentioned the JEDI was because of the age factor. You can't expect to foster boys at 12 and 14. That's too old. They have to be newborns. They have to be infants. They have to be toddlers. They have to be somewhere in there. Birth to maybe 2-3 years old, max. After that, they're too old.
I don't think that's necessarily true because I was raised by a single mother up until I was 13. But I mean, it was also a man I was related to, as my grandfather, but he was on my dad's side, and I didn't have a bunch of interaction with him until I actually went till I actually moved in with him. And my grandfather just told me like this: you're going to do what you want to do. I can't tell you what to do. You're already a man. You're 14. If you want to graduate, if you want to have things, you're going to do what you got to do. And what he gave me was just the support. And I kind of navigated my way through. And my grandfather, he made sure I had money in my pocket. And he kind of taught me like what it means to be a man, even with the toilet seat. That's something I really remember. And I think you brought something like that up. I would always put the toilet seat down. I grew up in a house full of women. He said, look, don't nothing but men live up in here. Stop putting the toilet seat down. And that was the end of that discussion. And that's what I do when there's a bunch of men. Even to this day, even with my wife, I leave the toilet seat up all the time. But I just tell my wife, look, that's what I learned. You better look before you sit your ass down. Like, everybody better look before they leave. But the thing I'm saying is, I am a case where I kind of got under the tutelage of a male at a late age. And I did okay. I managed to get married and stuff like that. And my grandfather, him and my grandma had got divorced, and my grandma got remarried, right? And even my grandfather, who she married, accepted me in as his grandson and stuff like that. So I think there is some truth to what you're saying, but I also think it really depends on the person, and it also depends on the people. Like, you gotta, like Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson is just not so trapped up in his own ego that he's like, Sierra having a kid before I married her is no big deal. I am, what I'm saying, a man, and I'm the one who's dictating all this stuff. And I think that's why he's able to marry Sierra without letting the outside influence, determine how he interacts with her. So yeah, I really think
the fact that she's a world-class model and looks, the fact that her son was very young certainly didn't hurt.
Yeah, so look at Shaquille O'Neal, though.
Look at him.
I mean, he's product of a stepdad.
Right, but I'm saying to you that, so let's continue with this JEDI analogy. So when did the JEDI order fall? It fell when they allowed the product of a single mother who was 10 years old to be a JEDI initiate. His name was Anakin Skywalker.
He was too old.
He was too old, and he came from a single mom. So what I'm saying is, we actually agree on this. Brothers need to institute the standards of the JEDI order. In order for bringing in new initiates, they have to come from a particular background. You have to pass a test. Anakin Skywalker was administered a series of tests. You have to pass a series of tests in order to be eligible to be fostered by me. And one of those tests is you can't be too old. Another test is that we can learn from Anakin Skywalker. You can't come from a baby mama background. Sorry. You're too old and you come from a baby mama background. You're ineligible.
I also think that one of the things that has that factors in is the man who it is. Like Shaq's dad was I think he was in the military, right? Like, he was a military dude. Russell Wilson is a football player. Both of these things require a certain level of discipline, right? So if you have no discipline to instill, then it probably doesn't matter what age the kid is when you marry his mama. If you don't have anything to instill in that kid, it's probably going to be a breakdown of that dynamic sooner rather than later. A lot of men who marry these single mothers, stepmothers, because these single mothers, a lot of them low key get with those women because they're easy pickings, and they're the only woman who would entertain a man like that. You know what I'm saying?
So why are we talking about those men then?
No, this is what I'm saying. So men who have disciplined themselves have discipline that they can instill into kids, young men at any age. Like my grandfather was
more disciplined. Who was more disciplined, the Jedi, than Mace Windu?
No, that wasn't the person who accepted Anakin. It was Qui-Gon Jinn, and he was a rebel,
and he didn't.
But what I'm telling you is,
then his future became a young Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Listen. I know more. Wait, I know. Let me just say this. Okay. Let me say this one thing.
I'll interject.
Let me say this one thing. I know about Star Wars. Mace Windu would have never accepted Anakin Skywalker. The reason why they accepted him is because Qui-Gon Jinn vouched for him, and Qui-Gon was going to be his trainer, but Qui-Gon died. Mace rejected him. He said he's too old. So really, like I said, it was an undisciplined Jedi who agreed to do something that went against the Jedi Order, which led to the Jedi falling. If it was Mace, a disciplined Jedi who was on the council, he would have rejected that little bastard, and the Jedi would have.
So we're agreeing.
Okay, you guys.
We're agreeing.
Disciplined men. But I do want to real quick. We're getting we're kind of getting late here. You guys, super chats have been quiet, so if we don't get any support, then I will wrap this up within the next 5 minutes. Obsidian finish the point, and then if it's quiet, then I'll just wrap this up because I know you guys have some evenings to go, and we've kind of been all over the place. So you guys, again, if you want this to continue a little longer, be sure to show support. Obsidian, go. And also shout out to actually, I did see $4.99. Alex, thank you for the super sticker, guys. You know the drill: super chat, Cash App, Venmo, support the content creators. Obsidian. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry. What was that?
I said I feel free to respond to his point.
To whose point now?
And I know you were.
Right.
Oh, so you guys agree? You guys agreed on that point.
I was going to say that. Yeah, we agree on this particular point. That in my analogy, bringing up the Jedi is apt because, yes, Qui-Gon never made the council because he was such a maverick, and he died. And his student Obi-Wan Kenobi, who himself just barely passed the trials and became a master himself, lacked experience. So, yeah, we are in agreement. The most disciplined men should not take on hard cases. Anakin Skywalker was a hard case. Don't take on hard cases. And I'm sorry, the black community has a lot of Anakins. Very talented, got raw talent, but they're undisciplined and they're too old. And we have to be honest about that.
I don't think that I think that there's people who maybe can absorb the discipline and stuff, and I think it's who it is. But for the most part, I think that's true. There's a lot of people who are just too old, and even Dr. Umar Johnson said that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of black men are just too far gone. And I mean, while we'll say that, then we also say, a lot of black women are too far gone. There's just a lot of black people who are too far gone. And that's why when you get you some money, you better get the hell away from them, because one thing they could do, if they can't get nothing right, they will be masters at tearing your ass down if you stay in close proximity to them. So that, and even with the women, black men, hey, black women, this, that, go somewhere else. Get you a black woman from Panama or something like that. They got a lot of them out there. A lot of black women in Africa.
I believe that's already being addressed, brother.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, the passport bros. I mean, I believe
that issue is already being. You know what's fascinating to me about this conversation is that we're covering points that have already been addressed. If the argument is that black men aren't getting married, that's not true. They're getting married at a higher rate than black women. If the argument is that black men are having trouble finding suitable mates, that's not true. We have a burgeoning movement of black men going overseas to find mates. So it seems to me that if the argument, we're talking about conservatism, we know for a fact that Donald Trump was responsible for bringing millions of black men to the Republican Party. That's a fact. So I'm trying to understand exactly what the problem is with black men on Matt. Now, if you want to talk about a certain segment of black men, we can do that. Sure. But if we want to talk about black men overall, I'm trying to understand what the argument is, because it seems to me the problems are on the other side with black women. They're the ones that don't want to marry. They're the ones that file for divorce at 80% more than anyone else. They can't even get along with lesbians. I heard the clip you did, Sade, with Courtney Michelle, and the point that for all the talk about zesty and sassy and black men being gay, the reality is that there are more black women who identify on the gay spectrum. And we find out from studies worldwide that lesbians divorce at a rate twice that of gay men. So it seems to me that we're barking up the wrong tree here. It seems to me that if we're going to have a conversation, it needs to be among the sisters. They got a lot of explaining to do. That's what it seems like to me. They're the least partnered. They carry the highest school debt. They're the heaviest. They're the least desired on any. I know black feminists who can't get on Bumble with men or women. Okay? Seems to me that's where we need to have the conversation.
And you're talking in relation to marriage? In relation to marriage, or just relation?
I'm talking about in relation to getting along, period.
Oh, yeah, okay. Because I know
it seems to me that overall black women have a problem just getting along, period. With anybody, male or female. And like I said, they're the most evicted. They carry the most school debt. They drop out of school the most, by the way. Black women drop out more than other women. Black women drop out more than black men. I mean, it seems to me, they're the ones that's having the babies at a much higher rate than other women, out of wedlock at that. They're the ones that file for divorce at a much higher rate than anybody else. I mean, it seems to me, and they're the ones that are the most democratic at almost 100%. So it seems to me that we're barking up the wrong tree here.
I don't think we're barking up the wrong tree. I think that the question was answered. I typed it in the comments. Title: Can conservatism save Black America? Answer: yes. Part of that is one of the fundamental aspects of that is getting married. To make that marriage last, one thing me and my wife agree on, which is so amazing, is our political views. When I say something conservative like da-da-da-da, my wife is very good at saving money. As a matter of fact, my wife taught me how to save money because I grew up in a house where it was like, yo, you get $1, you're spending $1. My wife displayed conservative values even before I did.
Yeah,
right?
but most black women aren't conservative. And most black women don't vote conservative.
But what I'm telling
the black women do, and most black women are virulently, vociferously Democrat and on the left. Most black women are virulently and vociferously feminist.
But what I'm telling you is there are conservative black women out there.
Only 6%.
Listen, well, then there's only 10% black conservative men. So there should be one for each of us. I'm mad that black
should be one for each of us. If it's 6% of black men, if it's 6% of black women who vote GOP, and it's upwards of 15% of black men who do, and we know that's true. Right off the rip, we're looking at almost a 2-to-1 here.
No, because you got to factor in that a lot of those black men are actually married. Most conservative black men are married. I'm mad that black men allowed Candace Owens to get away because she's a staunch conservative, and I guarantee your bank account gonna be looking right.
She married a white man.
I would marry a white man too if every black man I met was attacking me and bashing me. Oh, you're cool and black men, we weren't even checking for Candace Owens, so I'm not even going to hold that against her. But what I'm saying is, if you get a woman who identifies with you politically, I believe that greatly
But that
increases
the chances of that happening mathematically is like less than 1 in 10.
Well, I found it, so I don't know, but
You
it
found
depends.
less than 1 in 10.
Well, what I'm telling you is, if you hang in the spaces with those people, you will find those people.
What I'm saying to you is, what are the spaces you're talking about?
Well, and I will say that I can't speak to this personally, but I do remember Sharice Lane. She's an open Black Republican, and she has a pretty large following on Twitter, Instagram, things like that. And she complained a few months ago because she's single, I think like young 20s, and she complained about how like when she went on like a conservative app, how she was like, she literally put, she's like, are there any Black conservative men who want Black women? This was like her complaining. Now I'm not, I can't speak for everybody, but she is, a political commentator, essentially Black woman, young, very attractive. I had her come on, and she was complaining that it was hard for her to find Black conservative men to date and marry.
Why does she have such a hard time? I'm curious.
I'd be curious too. And maybe that's something I should bring her on for. I'd be curious, but I remember
she never said why she had such a hard time.
No, she didn't. She said I can't find anyone who are.
That's the problem with Black. See, that's the problem with Black women.
Mm-hmm.
See, Black women will just put it out there and say, what's wrong with these men? No, why are you having such a hard time?
I don't know. That's why I was like,
see, Black women are very deft. Black women are very deft at playing these word games. They're very good at lying by omission. Remember what I said earlier. Black women will make it seem like you got to marry down because there are not enough eligible brothers. The numbers don't say that. The numbers say there are eligible brothers out there. So the question now has to be, what were you doing in your undergrad and grad school years, ladies? I'll tell you what you were doing. You were not making finding a husband a priority. That's it. You were focused on other things, which is fine. But then when you get out and you're ready to settle down, those men don't want old women. They don't.
Listen, when you deal with people in the political space, you got to be able to differentiate what they're doing genuinely and what they're just doing trying to appeal to the popular opinion and to gain popularity, right? That's politics. Because I'm pretty sure she's getting dug out by somebody on a nightly or a bi-nightly basis, right? You're not that rich and that powerful, and you ain't getting what you want when you want it, right? But what I'm saying is, if you look for those type of people, you will find those type of people. There are literally bars and all that where these type of people hang out. The reality is, Black men want the reality is the Black men, and I'm not blaming Black men. I know how y'all feel about that. What I'm saying is, most Black men who say they want this conservative setting when it comes to the family, a lot of them are super liberal and also want to try to pander to Democrats, and also they don't want to uphold their end of the bargain in that conservative household, right? Like me, my daughter was born. My wife pretty much stayed home. Then she went back to work when my daughter was 4. When my daughter turned 5, my wife was like, I don't want to work no more. You know what I had to say as a conservative male? Okay, babe, in California, how many men will be like, you got to pay your half of the bills? That's not conservatism. That is liberalism, where your woman goes to work, you go to work.
Well, the majority of Black men vote Democrat. So I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm saying you agree. So this is the point I think we can agree, bro. What I'm saying is, Black men have bought into a lot of ideas that actually work in opposition to what we want. And not saying women are
Black men are the most feminist of all.
But what I'm saying is, the women do bear responsibility. Like the lady she mentioned, I never even seen her, but I would ask, yo, what's her dress size? You know what I'm saying? Most conservative Black men want women who are pretty good looking, right? My wife is 150 pounds. When I met her, she was 140 pounds. Waistline is the same, but got a little bigger. She's very good looking, right? But the point I'm getting at is, we do things that do not produce what we want, that don't promote or perpetuate the things we say we want. How you a hardcore liberal talking about, I want the traditional Black nuclear family? That does no, I get it. But what I'm saying is, if you're a liberal guy, 9 times out of 10, the woman who you're going to be able to have a conversation with and y'all agree is going to be a liberal woman.
So right. So why are we talking about liberal people?
So listen to what I'm saying. If you listen to what I'm saying. So look, you're a liberal guy. The woman you meet 9 times out of 10 that you can converse with and all that is going to be a liberal woman. But guess what? Now you want to drop this bomb. Well, I do want that nuclear black family, which is a conservative ideal. Now that liberal woman that you fell in love with and married because you guys agree, now what you're saying is going against her natural instincts and views as a liberal. So you got people who get married and they, oh, we agree on global warming and all this shit, and then we try to introduce things.
So I'm 53. How old are you?
Me, I'm 37.
Okay. So we have black men somewhere between 35 and 54 who haven't sorted out the fact that if you get with somebody who is seriously liberal and do not hide that fact, they wear it on their sleeve. You can see it on their social media. And then you expect them to want to be, a June Cleaver. It seems to me that if we're talking about black men like that, they have much bigger problems than whether can conservatism save black America. These are people who need therapy. They have serious therapeutic problems that they need professional counseling help to sort out. Because you should not be a black man that is solidly middle-aged, somewhere between 35 and 54, and you don't understand that when you get with an abashedly and avowed liberal black woman, that she's suddenly going to switch from that to June Cleaver. There's something wrong with you. Fundamentally, seriously. That goes beyond what any of us here on this panel can do for them. They need professional help.
I would agree that there's many black people out there who definitely need therapy. Now, I want to be mindful of time. We've been on this for a while, and I do appreciate you guys for bearing with me. And I know you agree and disagree in some points, but that's okay as long as we can have a relatively friendly discussion about these matters. Yeah.
Can I say one last point? Okay, so I see a lot of people in the comments like, in most marriages, both wife and husband work. We're not talking about most marriages where 80% of them are ending in divorce. We're talking about saving the black community, which is producing marriages that last. And guess what? In most marriages where both people work, guess what? Even conservative marriages that go away from conservatism, there's a super high rate of divorce. But and I would have to look at the statistics on this, but I'm betting that in marriages where one parent work, where the man is the breadwinner, I bet you those people tend to stay married longer and their marriages last more so than when both people are working. Because guess what? When both people are working, both people are stressed out, both people are coming home dealing with stress from the outside world, and both people are looking at it like, look, technically, especially in high earning homes, I don't have to be here. I don't have to deal with this. But when there's a situation where it's like, yo, he's the breadwinner, and it's like, yo, she's taking care of the kids. You know what I'm saying? This guy's less willing to get a divorce because he's like, yo, I gotta really give her 50-50, like, or more, because she got the kids. And the woman is like, damn, if I leave overall, even if you give me 50-50, I'm gonna be poorer because I'm most likely gonna get stuck with the children. So we gotta look at the context of all this stuff, guys. You can say, well, look, this is what white folks doing or everybody else doing, both people working. Well, guess what? If you do that, you're going to get the results they're getting where all the marriages are ended in divorce. We're talking about achieving a result that's different from what they're getting. So that means we got to do things different from the way they're doing it. And I would suggest black people go move places where one person can work, or adjust your lifestyle to where one person can work and the other person gets to stay home and nurture the children. And guess what? If you want to, y'all could switch later on. Like my wife, she's like, my wife is going to nursing school. And my wife said when she's done with nursing school, she wants me to retire. She don't want me to work no more. Why? Because for damn near 20 years, I've been taking care of her. She said, I want to start a business in an affluent neighborhood in Los Angeles because that's where I live. Guess who put up the money to do that? I did. You know what I'm saying? She wanted to go to school for esthetician. Guess who paid for it? Me, $6,000. And then she didn't even work in the field. And then when she decided to open her own business, I put up the money. So there's a lot of things that you can do differently and tweak to your preference. But ultimately, what I'm telling you is, both people working, there's a higher chance that your marriage ain't gonna last. And even if you both work, you need to make that something that's temporary versus something that's permanent. I have an Asian friend. His wife just quit a lucrative job engineering. Why? So she could stay home with the kids. She said, I'm tired of not being around my family. So he's an IT manager. He's like, bro, she wanted to stay home. So I just had to pick up the slack. This is how other races do it, man. They just say, look, what's more valuable? This job making $100K a year, or being here for my kids at the school plays and all that stuff? You guys saw my channel yesterday. I ended my stream early. Why? Because I had to get to my daughter's volleyball game. Haven't missed one yet, won't miss one. But if you put the emphasis on family and being there for your family, I believe that things will always work out good in the end for you. But if you put your emphasis on money and I got to make money because I love my family, come on, bro. 9 times out of 10, most of your money is being squandered on frivolous shit. You ain't buying the kids. You didn't buy the new rims for the kids. You didn't put the new sound system in the car for the kids. But also, guess what? Tariq Nasheed made fun of me because I drive a 20-year-old car. But guess what? I used to have a Challenger, a Hemi, and I had a drop-top Camaro. Guess what? I was paying $1,200 a month in car notes. But I got rid of all that shit because now I get to stay at home with my family way more because I don't got to put in 60 or 70 hours a week to afford that stuff. So I just kept my eye simple, right? And that's a biblical thing. I made my eye more simple, and my life just improved. And so we need to stop chasing the Joneses, and the Joneses in this case being white folks trying to be like them, and just stick to our core naturally conservative values, because Black people are naturally conservative, and I believe that our outcomes will be way better than theirs.
All right. Well, Obsidian, I don't know if you want to comment. I do want to be mindful to wrap things up. So any final comments, statements, feel free to try. And I appreciate both of you for being here and sharing your thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, can conservatism save Black America? Yes. Do most Black men and virtually all Black women want to do it? No. I think that we're going to have to let things kind of run their course and play out. And things have gotten to a point between Black men and Black women now that we're now kind of settling our differences and duking it out at the ballot box. And that's not going to stop. One of the great ironies of the victories, one of the great ironies of the past half a century is one that we did have a victory. Many Black people are loath to admit that the civil rights movement worked. Was it perfect? No, but it worked. And it created just as many problems as it solved. And one of those problems is that now that we're truly free, Black men and Black women are realizing that we want different things. We have differing ideas about what a good life looks like. And that's going to continue to be illuminated in the years ahead. And we're going to continue to watch Black America disintegrate. You know, Eugene Robinson talked about disintegration along class lines, and it's true. But it's also disintegration along gender lines. And everybody knows about the breakdown of the Black family. That's going to continue. And that's going to have a ripple effect on Black communities. And there's a small but growing cadre of Black men who identify as political conservatives. That's going to continue to grow. You're going to have Black women doubling down on their left-leaning liberal ideas, in large part because that's who funds them. That's where they get their succor from. So we're just going to continue to watch this whole thing kind of play itself out.
Yeah. Brandon, I don't know if you have any final thoughts or.
No, I mean, I agree with him. I just think that more so than we want different things, I think we've just been kind of tricked. And like Dr. Amos Wilson said, we've allowed white people to define or dictate to us what we need or set the standards for what we need to be happy, right? Most Black people are very simple. Obsidian probably can agree. Most Black men are pretty simple. Shoot, you give a black man some wings, put the game on, bring him a drink. Most nights, that's good. You know what I'm saying? Make his dinner, he's happy. You know what I'm saying? Women, you give her some attention, take her out on a nice date every couple of weeks or every week, you know, get her a pretty dress, you know, put her little money in her hand. She's pretty much happy. And that's me speaking from experience. You know, my wife doesn't have any outlandish demands. You know, she just wants, her joy is to be with me, and my joy is to be with her. And there's outside forces that tell us, nope, to be happy, you need $300,000 in the bank. To be happy, you got to buy that new house with the new kitchen and have a new car sit in the driveway. And I think if we start to, you know, we start to take the steps to set our own standard for what it takes to be happy, right? I think we will find that a lot of, you know, the places where we're failing, we will start succeeding in those areas. And ultimately, you just have to be the author of your own future and of your own destiny. And I think that's always been the way. I think it's always been that way. So just get back to the basics, man. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you for sharing. Well, like, this has been a interesting conversation. Thank you for coming on and hanging out, Obsidian. I know this kind of went in a little different journey that I anticipated, but I think relevant because, you know, relationships, the topics of relationships and marriage it's very prevalent because it's what impacts people every single day. So I do appreciate you coming on and hanging out and sharing your perspective and your information and that. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Well, you have a good evening. Again, guys, thanks for hanging out. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Be sure to hit the like button. Show support of the show. Like I said, likes are free. Also, if you found this helpful and you haven't already contributed, you can do so on Cash App or Venmo. As I mentioned before, support your favorite content creators. We do our best to try to bring you content that is entertaining and thought-provoking and all of that, but we do rely upon you in order to keep this thing going. So shout out to you, C. Latimer with the $4.99. It says this great reset, COVID, evictions, etc., I believe is what is going to take for people to turn back towards each other out of necessity. Very interesting. And that does bring up, the point of, I mean, could we see marriage rise, or could we see things turn around out of necessity? That's a whole nother conversation. Shout out to you also, the Rubbermaid Man with the $1.99 in the super chat. I saw that come through earlier. I appreciate you. And shout out to you, Grega, with the 10 on the super chat. I appreciate the love and the support. Again, guys, for the support, you can find me on Cash App, Venmo, Share Day. Also, be sure to join channel membership if you haven't already. You can do so for as little as $4.99. I appreciate you again. Pan-Africanism Strikes Back and Obsidian, a very, very colorful conversation. I know there went, there are certain points that don't agree on everything, and that also shows you that even within conservatism, or people who are conservative, that there's not going to be agreement in everything. There's going to be differences. That is okay. I believe that as adults, it is okay to talk to people and to converse with people that you don't necessarily agree with, as long as we can do so respectfully. And you might walk away, learning something or considering things that you wouldn't have done otherwise. So it's always good to have those things. And yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys for hanging out. Stay tuned for other upcoming content. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell so that you are notified each time I go live, each time a video drops. Sometimes YouTube is not always so good about letting people know. So if you are notified, or if you have the notification button hit, you should receive notification each time these conversations take place. So anyways, this was a longer one, but I think it was necessary. And yeah, guys, I think hit like, subscribe. I think I've said everything, and stay tuned for other upcoming content. And we'll talk later, guys. Okay? Peace.